understand that I don't wanna play your game.
The Earth is very flat.
What's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday, September 22nd, 2021. This is Brandon, host of Brandon's Show. Hello, everyone in chat. We've got Cleary, Wilk, Aston, Gadget, Inspector, page 42. And Greg T. What's up, Greg? WTP. Sean Hawkins. Bill G. What's up, Bill? Ian Adams. And you guys are busy chatting today. Shit. More than usual. I know I say that a lot. More than usual. I'm probably missing people. Anthony Burrows. And a whole bunch of other people. How you doing? Who was first? Page 42. Congrats, Paige. Sound good? Sounds good. Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate that. Hey, Paul. How you doing, man? All right. NASA bashing and more today. And it's going to be pretty much an open discussion, open panel. I hear Pete pretty busy in there. So we'll see what's going on. But there's quite a few people in the chat. Here, let me drag that over so you guys can see. Quite a few people hanging out this afternoon. Not too bad, not too bad. Let's go say hi.
The funniest part is there's no show today.
Yeah, there is.
What up, what up, what up?
I'm
We're
kidding.
on the show. What the fuck?
What's up? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Percentage wrong yet again. That's different.
What are the percentages of that?
Never wrong.
66% of the time, he's right 100% of the time. Or whatever. I fucked it up. How's it going?
We're good, man.
Good.
Good.
How are you?
All right.
I'm not too bad. It's the first day of fall, so that always sucks. But other than that,
it
I'm
is,
pretty
hey?
good.
Autumn equinox.
Exactly. So I don't like that shit. I guess it's all right for everybody down in Australia and shit, but fucking hate winter. Let's see who we got in here. Percentage, Billy Sanchez, Conrad, Enigma, Extreme Assist, Farming Ganja, F.E. Walker, Travis, Pete, Kosho, Left Lane, Moongazing, No Namer, Perpetual O.G, Popeson, Cleanser, Rags to Riches, Rob on the Level, Keen, Silent Zero, Scrat is flat. Scrat is flat. Okay. Sovereign Container, Stark Otter, and Branch. Popped in a little earlier. I heard Pete holding court. What's going on? You guys getting a lesson or what?
Pete is the king of his castle.
Yeah.
Of course, he will hold court.
We've been talking about maths, numbers, what they mean, what they don't mean.
Okay. You still mad at me, Silent Zero, about the gravity thing the other day?
No, not at all. I'm never mad at you, Brandon.
You sounded annoyed. He sounded annoyed. What do you mean gravity's real? You're just gonna give him gravity?
Were you talking about the effect, the downward acceleration?
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, I was like, because Kosha was saying flat earthers deny gravity exists. I'm like, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
We don't deny that things fall down. We deny your whole conceptualization of the shit, pulling stuff towards the center of Earth.
For the
But
record,
there's
some do actually deny the actual acceleration.
There's a difference between, I don't know if you believe what I believe, but I don't think there's a force pulling things down. And I think a lot of flat earthers believe that there's a force. That's what I mean when you say gravity. I was like, okay. Because if they have a force pulling down, I mean, I guess they're happy. If I was a Glover and you tell me, well, there's a force pulling that things down to the ground, I would say, well, that's all we need to make it into a sphere and to fit our model.
Yeah, but there's also a force pulling things up.
Is that your only basis for disagreeing, Zero?
Yes, yeah, because I don't agree with the
irregardless of the reality of it, you're going to disagree with it because it.
He said irregardless.
I don't disagree with things going down to the ground. And up to the
Silent.
sky, some things.
So to be clear, you
I-
just disagree with the whole 9.8 meters per second squared acceleration downward.
No, I disagree with a force pulling it down to the ground.
So
Yeah, if you want to use
think
those
there is-
terms, if there's a force pulling it down, there's also force pulling stuff up.
So you think there is a 9.8 meters per second squared downward acceleration? You do think that?
There
know
isn't.
that.
That's an agreed upon average.
But okay, there's an average. So everybody agrees on that.
For depending on the item and the medium, then I don't see why it wouldn't be achievable.
Okay. So we just don't agree on the cause of that acceleration, just that it's
Of course.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at too.
But see, not everybody even agrees that it's there, because Nathan Oakley specifically said there is no downward acceleration because gas doesn't go down, go boom boom. Quote him.
Yeah, and somebody else in here just now just said that there's no downward force.
Well, Silent Zero said that, so I don't exactly know what he was saying.
There isn't only a downward force. If you want to term it as force, that's up to you, right? You could say it's a return to equilibrium or what have you. But if we want to go with the term force, you have to remember there's a force. You could say it's force downward and a force upward for more buoyant things.
Well, there's lots of other forces pertaining to other stuff, but I'm just saying.
Well,
we're
gravity's
just talking
not a
about there
force.
being a downward force at all. Is there a downward
So
force
hold on, gravity's not a
at all?
force.
If there's a downward one, there's also an upward one. That's the point. It depends on the medium, the
What do
object, the
we call
density.
that? What is that force from?
Yeah. What is net force
So-
0?
Okay, so not gravity. Okay, I'm glad we agree on.
Yeah. I would say there's an acceleration. Now, I think that's a different question. Does gas have an acceleration? That's a different thing, but we're talking solid objects. In most
Why is that
things, I guess,
different?
other than gas. Gas is still kind of an open question in my mind because it does go in all directions.
So it
I don't know.
is.
It does, but
the
also-
laws don't apply to gas. Is that what you're saying? The rules don't apply to gas.
He said he doesn't know. He said it's a bit of a question. For me, I think it does have, because we know that the air has weight. So even though it goes in every direction, I do feel like it has like a force downwards, if you want to use that word. But it has relative, it's more dense than the medium that it's in, so it goes down.
Wait. Air is more dense than the medium it's in.
The individual particles compared to the space that it's around it, I think so.
So, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay.
Well, no, it's more dense than a vacuum.
And
It's extreme assist. That makes sense, right?
But I mean, air is not literally there. Air is not in a vacuum. The atmosphere is the atmosphere. So
No, but if we took all
air
the
is more dense
atmosphere
than
out,
the medium it's in is weird. Just saying it like that. It's just
yeah,
a
but if
weird
we
way to
took
say it.
if we took the atmosphere away, then I assume there'd be a vacuum, right?
And
course.
if you puncture a helium balloon at ground level, the gas doesn't go in all directions. It goes in one direction, which is upwards, right?
Right.
Because that's the
Because it's less dense. Those particles are less dense than the air
Right.
that it's in.
Right. And that doesn't mean that there's no
Nitrogen
prevailing
balloon,
force, though.
It'll go down.
That's the arrangement of things according to buoyancy and density within a greater impulse
Change the
force.
temperature or the voltage, it'll change direction.
Yeah, I might be one of the minority of the ones that believe that air is not unlike other objects in terms of
Energy.
the particles equalizing or layering by their density, finding their equilibrium in their density. So for heavier gases, I do believe they'll find their equilibrium. They'll go lower down in that vertical air column.
You'll find their
And vice
potential.
versa.
How do you respond to what Brennan had just said though about gases going in all directions?
They do go in all directions depending on the medium, right? But if it's a very light gas in a very heavy medium, a gas in a very heavy air environment, if you want to call it that,
Depending on
then
the voltage.
it'll go in every direction, but it'll also diffuse upwards.
Depending on the resistance, the voltage, the
Because-
medium,
because
or
they
Go
have-
downward.
In their little environment, they have pressure outwards, right, in their kind of container, and as soon as it gets released from that, it's going to go in every direction. But then afterwards, I feel like it's going to equalize to go up and find its relative density.
How do you distinguish? How do you distinguish the gas of helium, for instance, in the medium of the atmosphere, which is also a gas?
Differential.
But it's the same medium. Both
It's
gases.
the same word, air, but there's different differential of individual gases.
So it's different mediums or the same medium?
So you think if you put helium and oxygen in a chamber, that the helium will go up and the oxygen will go down? No, it's not homogeneous, bro. It'll fucking mix, man.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yeah.
If you increase
No,
your
it
scale,
will.
I think it will layer.
Hey, Brandon,
Yeah,
I
they will
posted a link on your private message. Check it out how those waves are behaving like water. It's so weird. I don't know why they do that.
Well, I was gonna say that I think what's meant when they say gases move in all directions, they mean that if you have a collection, like a volume of gas in front of your face, a cubic meter, and you take any individual gas molecule from that, you would find that the direction it's going
It moves where
is
it can.
it could be any direction because they're all moving in random
Depending on
directions.
the resistance.
But that's not the same thing as the forces acting on those things, because the direction that it's moving is going to be
The path of least resistance.
it's going to be a product of whatever it was caused it to go in that direction, like some collision that caused it to go in that direction. So that would have been the instantaneous force that would have sent it in that direction. And then if there is a downward force, then it would also hold on to Mach. That would also be there would be a vector for that continuous force acting downward. So even though it's moving in any direction, the influence, its influence causing it to move in any direction. I mean, it can be moving in specific directions.
Well, the influence is temperature, voltage, pressure, right? What's the difference?
Those are different things.
With the same effect.
No. That's not the same effect.
You
It's
change the pressure, you change the temperature,
hold on.
change the same. They all change at the same. There's all a different ratio.
No, that's the point though. Is
if
the
you get
direction of
higher,
the particle,
your pressure or
Okay,
your
Demont.
resistance is the same or less. If you get lower, if you heat it up, if you add voltage, it's the same thing. So yeah, cool story. They're all different, but why do they all act exactly the same at the end of the day, son?
but they don't act exactly the same. What happens
Yeah,
is
they do.
whatever
When I say
You ask the question, let him respond.
whatever force.
Yeah, hold on.
Demont, hold on. Whatever force is acting on that object, like whatever it is that affected it, it's going to cause it to move in the trajectory that it's moving into. So it's true that those different things could have effects on it if they're present. And the question is there an always present force downward? And the answer that we're saying is yes. There's a continuous downward force influencing it, even if it is moving in a different direction than downward.
I agree 100%, but you say it's a pulling force from below, Kosho. Why not a pushing force from above?
I mean,
How would that work?
That's floats your boat.
Pete, how would a
What?
pushing force work?
Spacity.
Well, listen. when we
Fucking God, I forgot about your spacey shit.
I'm not going to say that, man. You haven't put yourself in a flat Earth setting, have you, Kosho? You haven't imagined anything like that. To you, empty space is above. To me, it's not. There's a barrier there. And I say, Brandon, the question you asked, this pushing force has got to do. It's a reactionary force, right? There's a force holding back the waters themselves, an energized force. Because we're in a broken system, we have a reactionary force which is pushing from above downwards.
You know, my brother was in 24/7 for a brief time, and while he was in there, because I was living with him at the time, and he had come up to me and he said that he had this idea that space was the pushing force, and that there is no such thing as gravity, and it's just the space pushing things together, something like that.
And you see why what I say, at least there's some tangible sense to it. If there's waters beyond, or if there's something beyond, not space, there's something holding it, right? If it was working as it should be working, then this force wouldn't be there for us. But because everything is a collapsed, divided state, we have a reactionary force to the force that's holding back the energies. I say it stems from the north. But this is what ether is. That's what I say. This is the force from above.
How would that work? How would a pushing force, like let's say,
well, this is
what
why
we call
we have
space
a vacated...
is Earth, there's this space above us, and it's pushing down on everything on Earth.
No, the energy that's required to create the barrier, right, is coming from Earth. So from the Earth upwards, I say it's from the north center upwards, creating the barrier, withholding the waters, and then you have a reactionary force. For each action is equal opposite reaction. This reactionary force then is what we experience underneath, and there's also a vacated zone as we go short distance above, right? So this is the zone directly beneath the barrier, and well, as you come away from that, then the force alleviates somewhat, and we have it spreading out, and as we experience it here, then in terms of atmospheric pressures, as we wrap around that.
What makes you think this? What evidence for this do you have, or is this just
as much
conceptual?
Evidence. I would explain it. Go ahead. Actually.
Let me just say what makes me think this. Well, a flat earther, first of all, and it's venturing down a pathway which sort of incorporates some of the different aspects to the flat earth that I have incorporated. But that's what it is. It's there for your consideration, right? That's all. Regarding the ether, let me just say regarding the ether, that's a different matter. I say the repeating cloud patterns in your local sky prove an ether, amongst other things. But that's a different matter. It's just for consideration as a flat earther. That's all.
Okay. Percentage. Were you going to say something to back up?
Yeah, I would answer it a bit differently. I would say, if we're speculating as to what's going on, I'd say there's as much evidence for mass attracting mass as there is for space attracting space, as in empty space attracting empty space. So the empty space above, and we know that there's going to be more volume, like less filled space, if you will. Right, it's going to be more empty space up above because it's less dense, right? There's going to be less matter, so you could claim that is attracting the empty space down here, and as a result, the lighter things are being pulled upwards, and as a reaction, the more dense things are being pushed downwards. So there'd be an upward bias as opposed to a downward bias with mass attracting mass. And in terms of like how it would work, you can speculate as to what it would be. You could say 0 point energy reacting with the 0 point energy in the empty space, or the less dense things down here that are causing some sort of attraction. But the point is, there's as much evidence for that cause as there is for mass attracting mass.
Okay, hold on for a second. You're saying there's evidence for nothing attracting nothing? What the frick are you talking about, dude?
Have you ever heard of 0 point energy?
You're talking about nothing, which is space. Nothing.
It's not actually nothing, though.
That's what space is.
It's not actually nothing.
He's claiming his claim is that it's equivalent to. It's the same. He's saying that it's the same thing as thinking that mass attracts mass. That if you're going to come to that conclusion, you can equally validly come to the same conclusion that space attracts space.
Exactly.
That's is his argument.
Yeah, you could look at it as a downward bias, or you could look at it as an upward bias. One being, due to mass attracting mass, and you could say, what is it in mass that's attracting the other mass, right? What is it in space that's attracting the other space? I could say it's a 0 point energy. There's a lot that we don't know about it, and pointing to the cosmological constant problem and all this other stuff. We don't know why this empty space that should be empty isn't actually empty, that there's this energy form that we can't explain.
That's a load of nonsense.
I think it's an interesting concept to think about. Yeah, I mean, if you guys say that all matter attracts other matter, essentially, so he's just it's just kind of an inverse where all non-matter attracts all non-matter. So it's just kind of the other side of the coin, right?
Well, non-matter is nothing. Nothing can't do anything. Not non-matter. Hold on.
It's not actually nothing. That's the point.
There's nothing there. There's nothing. How does nothing do anything? That's just.
The modern idea is actually a combination, or somewhere in between both those ideas, because it's not really mass attracting mass. It is actually the space that is, or space-time that's supposedly doing something that makes it appear that mass is attracting mass. So it's not really that far-fetched in that regard, but...
Yeah, but they do say that the mass of the object is causing the space-time to warp, and the space-time warping is causing the object to go in the trajectory that it goes in. So it's kind of like, you know, a catch-22 between those two. They don't say that it's, you know, the spacity, or if you will, like this attraction of, you know, the 0 point energies in space causing the space-time to warp. So they still have a downward bias with space-time.
That's my point, that there's a combination. It's somewhere in between both those things, because it doesn't say that space has some intrinsic force or mechanism. It doesn't say that mass has some intrinsic mechanism. It says that mass distorts space-time, and the result is what we experience. It was just some appearance of mass attracting mass, but it's not necessarily.
I'm with you, but it's still kind of on the side of downward bias.
Okay, so can you demonstrate space-time being warped?
Yeah.
Really?
It's been shown to you guys so many times, man. This is like everyday stuff that we. I mean, this has been done.
Wait, when was space-time?
It's like, yeah.
Itself been demonstrated, much less space-time being warped.
Yeah, show
well, you have the
and then shows the warpitude.
Sure. Well, you have the experience of that supernova that was predicted exactly when. So that used two aspects of space-time, both the gravitational lensing and also time dilation.
Did you say supernova? I just want to clarify this.
Most unpredictable things in the universe.
So a phenomenon in the sky, you have no idea what it is, but you give it a name, and you're saying that's proof of something?
Yeah, the ability to predict exactly when one was going to occur, exactly when and where this one was going to occur. The ability to predict that was evidence that the ideas about what it is happening up there.
Did you predict this, Kosho?
Yeah, you predicted, Kosho. You're such a fucking
that happened in the past, right, Kosho?
Did you predict this supernova, Kosho? Was it you? Did you do this?
Yes, I did.
Hang on, Kosho. Surely that happened in the past, right? So the supernova would have already happened millions and millions of years ago. So how did they predict that?
Well, no, what happened was it's like the picture I posted is called the Einstein ring. So like a star is being lensed around another star. What's happening here was a supernova was being lensed around another star. And so the supernova happened once, but then it also, because of the gravitation or the time dilation, happened again at different times around the same object, but it was the same supernova. So what the team did was they used these ideas to predict when the next one was going to occur, and they got it correct.
Brian, your mic is Brian, go back to your AirPods. Your mic is fucked up. We can't hear you at all.
There's supernovas happening like multiple times, not just once or twice. They keep happening. Your paradigm's gone, dude. You need to look at the facts, man.
That's this picture you showed. I mean, is that supposed to be a real-time photograph image of the distant nebula or something? And this ring itself.
No, yeah, that's a star. It's
First of all, is this a real picture? Is this a real picture?
Yeah, I believe it's from the Hubble. I can get some details.
That's a no, then, Brandon.
My question's still open.
A real camera.
I've been saying this for months. We need photo forensics up in this BS.
You have been saying
Are you saying that this blue glowing light is a consistent part surrounding to the supernova, and judging at what level it's at, they can predict when it's going to explode again?
Well, that was a specific. I'm looking for an article for that one, so I can. That's not this picture though. This picture is an example of what how lensing appears. And if you just imagine that there's, instead of the star being lensed, a supernova being lensed, the supernova is a quick instance of an event. So to predict when this event's going to occur is kind of significant, sure.
It's
just briefly, my own
getting
thoughts.
really deep.
My own thought. Yeah, go on, Brandon.
No, I was just kind of commenting. I feel like I'm journeying into a Twilight Zone or something.
Well, my own thoughts briefly are that the more powerful the telescope, fundamentally the more powerful the microscope. So it is a backdrop that we're looking against, have a fixed sort of distance. We know about the scaffoldry regarding Hubble. I wouldn't be surprised if there was real things in play, actually up close taking images of what's seen against what I say is a backdrop screen. So I don't think certain myself tend not to laugh at all of these things outright. I try to see what's been said behind the bullshit.
I just want to know if it's a real picture. Like, I know we can take pictures of stars and shit. There's some weird shit up there. But we're also presented with a lot of bullshit pictures, like the black hole picture.
Yeah.
That they showed us. As they showed the world, we photoed a black hole, and then you get down to it, and it's all like AI, machine learning, fucking manual input bullshit. But hey, let me oh shit, what's his name? Gleam. Sorry, didn't mean to forget your name for a second there, Gleam. Linked me something interesting. Have you guys ever heard of Lesage's theory of gravitation?
Yeah, he said it's very similar to what I was talking about when I first mentioned it when he was around.
Yeah, listen to this.
About like reverse gravity.
Yeah, it's kind of similar. Yeah, according to this model, any two material bodies partially sealed each other from the... Oh, I better start off a little earlier. The theory proposed a mechanical explanation for Newton's gravitational force in terms of streams of tiny unseen particles, which Sage called ultra-mundane corpuscles. I can't say that word. Ultra-mundane corpuscles. Sounds like a good band name. Impacting all material objects from all directions. According to this model, any two material bodies partially shield each other from the impinging corpuscles, resulting in a net imbalance in the pressure exerted by the impact of the corpuscles on the bodies, tending to drive the bodies together.
Sounds like Spacity.
Would you fucking believe I was going to fucking offer up something very, very similar in regards to saying that space-time is metaphor for ether. And if you think about an electrified room and two spheres, two bowling balls being dropped into it or something, and just taking a snapshot of them coming down, then the distance between them in terms of this electric field, right, or the electrified charge would be lessened because they are displacing it. So you would get a sort of a more positive or negative charge in that sense if you think about attraction between molecules. So fucking hell, that's pretty close to what I was thinking I was just about to say, even though I made an arse of what I was trying to say. These particles are ether particles, what your man is talking about, the Sage, definitely.
Well, he said mathematically, space-time is ether. You know, same math.
Right. This is it. They're fucking telling us the truth via metaphor. That's why I come up with a new word, metaphorsics. We live in a metaphysical reality where metaphor rules.
You know, I've had the same thought too in relation to the an explanation for the Cavendish, why they attract each other, is because it creates kind of like this blocking on one side and an imbalance in the force, which drives the balls to kind of attract each other. But it could be, the force could be anything. I don't know if it's this Lesage. It could be anything that would cause an imbalance of force, right?
How did the sandbag stall? Okay, if the lead attracted the lead, but it didn't attract the sandbags, it stalled. Watched it with my own two eyes. Okay, so there's an explanation we're still searching for, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
Brian, it sounds like you're half the room away from your mic or something, man. When did you see that though?
I seen it live on Blue's demonstration. He was trying to prove that it was mass attracting mass, and he put sandbags, and they stalled.
Yeah, you said that. I wish we had a clip of that to see it. Aren't you doing something like that? Aren't you planning your own Cavendish?
Yeah, I am, man. I got all the lead, and then I got some more lead, so I'm gonna melt down the balls I got, and I'm gonna. I have enough to do almost the original size of the 1 foot diameter big balls, but I'm not gonna just do lead. I'm gonna try every material I can come up with, including sand, concrete, copper, aluminum, lead, and I'm not going to focus on the math. I know that there's going to be a mathematical argument as far as what they're supposed to do, but I'm going to focus on the effect itself. I'm going to play around with electrostatics. I'm going to hang them on fish lines. I'm gonna do and I'm gonna show it all. I could do it, on this channel or whatever, just little short demonstrations and stuff, or show the recordings of them. I should have that done within the month, man. Start it within the month.
I've got an idea
I got
for
a
you.
quick question.
Let me get my idea out, and then you can go with your question, Extreme Assist. You can't block mass attracting mass in the heliocentric model. So it'd be interesting. You get these balls and put something between them. I don't know, some different materials, a thin sheet of some different materials, and see what happens. That would be one thing I would request. I don't know if anybody's tried that before, but.
What did he say about the sand? What did you say about the sand, Brian? How did that interfere with the,
another
program?
Well, Blue did hung some sandbags. He blames it on electrostatics. Every time something goes wrong, it's electrostatics in the Cavendish, just so you know. And then when everything gets just right, it's mass attracting mass. To me, that's a joke. I'm going to put masses on either side of the lead balls and different variations and see, why is something the same size or whatever? Why is it always attracted to what? I want to see what it does before but I'll make some predictions and stuff. But I'm gonna vary every fucking thing. I'm gonna do so many variables. I'm gonna vary all kinds of shit and see if we can narrow it down, man. Right now, all I know is that it's not a consistent mass attracting mass unless every time it goes wrong, you blame it on electrostatics. That to me is that's means electrostatics is the fucking cause. If you're having to get your electrostatics just right, then it's electrostatics causing it. But we'll see.
And the reason I asked you about sand, because I said earlier on before the show was here that for me, another proof or indicator that ether is a thing, alongside the repeating cloud patterns, as the sand. I mentioned the sand on the beach when the tide goes out, everything settles flat for a while, and then suddenly all of these wrinkles, all of these little crests and troughs appear in the sand, and so we all can relate to that. So that's a very interesting thing, and I'm sure it comes back to the question again, what the fuck do we think sand actually is? So, very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't they tell us sand is little particles from rocks that have been beat on for like millions and millions of years, and that's where sand came from?
Silicon.
Pieces of shells in it.
Silicon.
Yeah.
They label
I say
it
silicon. Yeah. I say sand is the sawdust of the felled trees, right?
I think they say silica, not necessarily silicon. I don't know if they're the same. I don't know if silica is silicon.
And quartz and silicon.
Quartz crystals, yeah. A piezoelectric effect.
Back to mass attracting mass. I'm just curious. Those who believe mass attracts mass, is it that you guys completely think that Einstein was wrong, or do you just reject his debunking of mass attracts mass, or what?
He doesn't debunk it, man. That's not the point. Like I just said the percentage. I just said this to percentage. That that's not the intrinsic. There's not an intrinsic mechanism in mass that makes it.
Kosho, he debunks it as a cause.
Mass attracting mass, as even understood by Einstein, is just is the effect that we see.
Right.
The curvature of space-time and the mass attracting mass. Yeah. No one's claiming it's the cause. But the Cavendish.
In the heliocentric model, it's the cause and the effect,
bro. A prediction of Einstein's relativity.
So, as Brian said, if relativity space-time equations are all equivalent to the equations for ether, and this is mass attracting mass, fucking hell, are we being told a story here again through fabricated characters like Einstein? I think we are. We got to get beyond the literal and see what it tells.
Hey,
you have equations for ether?
So Brian, who said that about equations regarding ether? Everything's transferred. I think Gleam talks about that as well. Everything's transferred now to space-time equations. But that's very interesting. If math describes or defines reality, and there's an equivalence between ether equations and space-time is the ultimate cause of mass attracting mass, then we can equate this effect to ether itself. Very good.
Yo, it just occurred to me that we dove straight in.
Lorenz's transform equations are based on the ether. Lorenz's transform,
right,
based on a stationary Earth, basically.
Yeah, I was saying, Brandon, we dove straight in. I don't know if you had like an agenda or anything that you wanted to get to today, or if we're good.
No, we're good. We're good. I
All
didn't
right.
have much planned for tonight. I figured we just.
Okay, well, in the vein of like mass tracking mass and gravity and spacity and all that jazz, what do you guys think of when you hear concave Earth?
I think where's the evidence? What are the arguments? Because I've asked.
No, but what do you imagine in your head? Like, how does the Earth look if you're thinking concave Earth?
Man. There's some fairly good arguments for concave Earth, man. When they hung them pendulums down underground in the mine shafts, they had a convergence, and also you could say planes always have to fly up, 1 to 3 degrees. They have to go level. They have to be constantly facing upwards. There's a few good arguments. A lot of people swear by concave Earth. The question is how concave is it? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, here's what I picture is the sun, like we're inside of a giant ball. That's what I always picture in my head when we talk about concave Earth.
Yeah, and I would agree. So this is where it gets freaky. If you're going to adopt the spacity type view, where space is attracting space, I feel like eventually it'll have to go to concave Earth, where you basically have grass on the inside of this hollow type ball, right?
My wife would certainly agree with you, man. And it is interesting that to fly flat and level, you have to have the nose of the plane constantly facing upward slightly. But she doesn't think it's very concave. Like, she would still agree the water is flat in most places, except for in where it's dynamic. She would attribute the dynamics of the water to the concavity, but very slight concavity. She's got it all in her own mind.
It would be the exact inverse of the globe. Water would level would be curved, but it would just be, instead of being convex, it'd be concave. And I think this is the natural kind of progression, or maybe it's just like the extreme that you would take this space attracting space thing to, because if space is attracting space equally, then over time it's gonna converge into a center point, right? And I think that this kind of hollow, kind of concave Earth would be the model you're left with.
So you're going to have
octopus.
Nothing attracts nothing.
What's that?
You're going to let him have nothing attracts nothing?
No.
I don't understand this total lack of.
It's not nothing. It's space.
Nothing
Empty
attracts
space
nothing.
is not
You
nothing.
take that shit and fuck off out of here.
Oh, I want to know what space is. Hold on a second.
Listen, guys, we don't have a perfect vacuum, so it's never going to be empty, right? And we have 0 point energy, so we don't have nothing.
So
space. Oh, hold on a second.
Listen, if you guys think you're gonna do good against percentage with this, he had them guys in gems for days on this shit. They couldn't debunk them.
Are you bringing nothing to the table again?
Well, wait a minute. All he has to do is define what space is, and then tell me how that's something.
Space is an environment of very low volume.
Okay, what is a volume?
Sorry, let me redefine that. It's a volume of very low matter.
A volume of very low matter. So
It's
the
very
volume
low
is not
density
the matter.
area.
So the volume is not the matter.
So it's not nothing.
It's a very
so
low
it's
density
actually-
environment.
So it's not nothing. You cannot
It's
call it
not
nothing.
nothing. There is no perfect vacuum.
Hold on a second. Okay, hold on a second. So really what you're describing is nothing, and also a volume is a mathematical construct, right?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Really?
I
A
said
volume? What
is
is a volume?
a volume is an area in 3D space, right?
What is 3D
Three-dimensional.
space?
So it's any kind of, you could measure it, quantify it as a mathematical thing by numbers or what have you, but any container, anything has volume, right? Everything that's 3D has volume.
But you're
That's what
describing
density is.
something.
Density is the amount of matter in a given volume.
Displacement, right?
Well, it's actually that's a concept though. A volume or space is just a concept.
Well, then you're saying that density, things having density is a concept.
No.
Some things are more dense than others.
There's things in. Now there's matter in density. When you've got density there, which means there's something there. There's matter there.
That matters in what?
See what I mean?
That matters in space, right?
The space is
No,
nothing.
no. Wrong choice of words. The matter is creating a space, I think.
No, density is literally mass per unit
That's
volume.
even crazier than what percentage is saying.
Just say
It's
area.
3D
Just say
space.
area.
It's an area of
It's
3D
area.
space. That's what volume is.
Matter takes up space. It doesn't create space. Oh my gosh! Right? Have you guys completely?
No one said it creates
rejected
it.
Logic.
Listen, Scratch, chill out.
Yes.
Without matter, how do you are gonna occupy a space?
Exactly. You
Only
need
when
matter.
you have
That's why there's
only
no
when
perfect
you have
vacuum.
matter, you are occupying a space.
Two
Which
physical
means
objects.
that matter is the one who is occupying the space.
Yeah,
No,
two
space
physical
is-
objects cannot.
No, because you could say the
occupy-
empty space is
Oh, wait,
occupying the same space that the matter's occupying.
Well, let's go in a
What do you
different
mean by
direction with
empty?
this. Hold on a second. Let's
All
go in a
right.
different direction with this. How do you bend a volume?
You can't.
Don't you bend space time, and space is technically a volume? How do you
No.
bend space?
I didn't say that at all. That's not part of my argument whatsoever.
Well, isn't that Einstein
Then you
part of
say-
Einstein's equation?
Yeah, but
Bending
that's
space
gravity.
time?
I'm saying spacity.
Well,
So he's making stuff up now.
so you
Yes,
can't bend
because flat
space.
earthers never make up anything.
Space that can be bent.
It's an
He did,
argument.
he did this to counter them when they make up space time. You know, they just made up space time. This is his counter argument for that. You want to make shit up? I'll start making shit up too.
Exactly.
Spacity? Is that what he said? Spacity?
Well, hang on.
Spacity.
Percentage. What is space? I mean, we're flat earthers, so obviously space in our terms is different than a ball earth space where it's infinite. So what is space? I mean,
Space.
You already
define
said
it,
it.
come on.
It's a volume. You already said it.
I just defined it. It's an area, and like a 3D area, right? A volume that has very low amounts of matter, extremely low amounts of matter. It's not perfect
We're in
vacuum.
space here, right? We're in space here at
But
gravity.
see, you run into a problem because as soon as you
Sorry, I
invoke
should-
space-time anyway.
Wait, I should elucidate that better. So when we're talking about like outer space, like as you go up, that's how I would define it as. Space and everything is just, you know, the volume that matter's contained in.
It's the volume that's created within the Earth realm. That's what I think it is. You know, so we have an Earth realm, and we have whatever
Sure.
beyond. So space is everything ensconced within. That's
Yeah, it's exactly the volume that matter is
Yeah.
within.
Okay, is space?
And
Is
there's a
it
distinction
the lack
between
of
like
matter?
filled space and empty
Hold on.
space.
Is space the lack of matter? The absence of
No.
matter?
Empty space would be.
Okay, so it's space. Space, empty space. What's the difference? Empty
Well,
means
You're on the ground
space.
here. You're in space.
You could
You're
have filled
underground in
space with
space,
matter.
man.
That's like
Yeah.
matter density
There
is
is
matter
no
per unit
empty.
volume. So if you have some
There's no
volume that's
empty.
filled, that's space that's filled.
There's no empty space, first of all.
There's nothing that's perfectly empty. You're right.
Yeah, nothing. There's none of the space we have that we can see is empty.
So I don't know if you guys can see my screen, but speaking of space, I never seen this before. I did not realize that there was space refraction. I guess I just didn't. It just didn't click
Oh.
with me.
I
We've
brought
got,
I brought that up earlier for the
Refraction.
discussion.
Yeah.
that's how
So,
they misinterpreted
Refracted vacuum.
the Eddington experiment. Okay, the Eddington experiment is just refraction. They saw a star when they shouldn't see a star or something. It was just refraction or something.
yeah. So they say in this quasar,
No.
black hole plus host galaxy, the gravitational lens bends the light rays around so you can see what's behind this quasar. But this is what's really crazy. This
It's so
distant
minute,
galaxy is
dude.
supposed to be 7.5 billion light years away.
So ridiculous.
Light years.
They see a little teeny piece of a tiny star, and I agree with Jeremy. It's refraction, man. And,
This was supposed to be their proof for general relativity. This was Einstein.
Let me.
big number.
What was that, Jeremy?
No, the Eddington experiment, the space refraction. They saw a star when they shouldn't see a star. This was the Eddington thing that was was there supposed proof for GR?
So what sounds more ridiculous?
No, I'm
That
gonna act like
7.5 billion light years, seeing that source point from that far away, or Spacity?
I fucking love Spacity.
let me act like a Glover. What is so funny about it? Why are you guys laughing about it?
How are you seeing those source points of light from 7.5 billion light years?
Brenda already told us we can see for infinitely far, and then she said birds could see farther than us. Right after that, by the way.
Yeah.
You guys hear me?
There's that.
What was that, Paul?
Yeah, I was just thinking. I make sure you guys can hear me. Now think about what's just been said, though. Whoever it was earlier said that space cannot be bent, right? Well, there's supposed to be a vacuum up there. So if space cannot be bent, how is it refracting or causing light to deviate from straight? Can't be bent. There's nothing there. How's it bending?
That's percentages take. Percentages take doesn't reflect the globe model or what most
What's
of us
the globe model
subscribe
there?
to.
The globe model says space can be bent.
Space-time can be bent depending on the size of a mass.
What's space-time?
I know we can get into the etymology. Jeremy, when we found out that GR was validated with these observations, it's more accurate to say that GR predicted these observations. It'd be more accurate to say it that way.
Yeah, in the setting. Go ahead, Paul.
I still want to know what space-time is. What is it?
Yeah, what is it? I'm not sure. I couldn't give you a proper description. I guess my best guess to a good description would just be an area denoted by three dimensions and of length, I guess.
That's just space.
Hold on.
I know that would be space, but that's what's being bent to a certain extent.
That doesn't make
sense.
sense.
Is it physical? Is space-time physical?
I don't think it is in our colloquially used physical.
It has to be.
No, I know it is, but then the next question. No, hold on, man. But the next question then becomes, give me a spoonful, or how do I interact?
No, there's difference between physical and tangible.
That's the difference. So I don't want to put myself in that hole, but there is more nuance to it.
Well, either way, let's say I'm not going to ask you about a spoonful. So if it's not physical, how can something non-physical do something?
Right. See, there we go. That's why it's hard to. I would never say yes or no to the physical
Very
question.
hard.
It's hard.
It's
hard to properly describe.
You don't understand
non-physical
Here,
thing.
Very hard, huh, Bio?
Hold up.
It's not difficult. There's nuance. There's nuances to the description. It's not black and white in the way that you want it to be. It's not that way.
So it's physical and non-physical.
So guys, space-time is a descriptor.
One at a time, guys.
No, space-time's a descriptor of physical things, Paul.
Huh?
So Paul, space-time is a
shut up, Feisty.
okay. So
Okay,
when you
space
ask me for
physical.
like, a bucket of space,
No one wants to hear
can
your
I
shyster.
respond, please?
Come on.
No.
So Paul, we do experience three dimension of time in our physical world.
Huh?
Space
You're cutting
physical.
out.
No,
You said
that's
some
okay.
bullshit and then cut out.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If he says it's a representation of the physical.
No, I
then if he
said
says,
it's a descriptor. I said it's a descriptor.
so can the descriptor do something?
Well, you can move
A
around in 3D space.
descriptor-
That's a physical operation.
Vocabulary is here.
The fact that you
Uh,
can move around in 3 dimensions, that's a physical behavior.
So
Yeah, but your
Paul,
space-time
so
thing
Paul,
is supposed to be
the
four
way-
dimensions.
oh my
Remember,
gosh.
it's
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry,
4
I'm
dimensional.
talking
Yeah, but we
It's
can't
okay.
move around.
Oh my
We can't
gosh,
move
why is
around in
everybody
the 4th
talking over me?
dimension, but it
Rumpus,
exists.
that's a false analogy. Just
So,
because we can
Paul-
move around in physical
Paul,
space
Yes, we can.
space-time
What do you
doesn't
mean we
mean
can't
that
move around in
space-time
physical
can
space?
move.
Talking over
What
me.
do you
You're
mean
getting
we can't move
obfuscated
around in
by your own
It
physical
doesn't mean
side,
that
RC.
space-time can move or bend.
Yes,
We
it
can
Somebody
move in
can.
space. Doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it itself can bend.
Well, we
It
have
doesn't
evidence
follow.
that
You're
It
actually
doesn't
arguing that
follow.
you need something to be in there to be
we
bending.
have
It
evidence that it
doesn't
does
follow
bend, so
that
that's
because
the
we've
thing
got 3
percentage.
dimensions it can bend, but it just so happens that it does. It doesn't. The argument you propose doesn't follow, but that doesn't mean to say that it's not true.
Explain how this space-time, this environment, is bending. If it's non-physical, how's it doing? How does it have a physical property?
Well, because
Don't introduce
dimensions
another
are
physical object into there.
Look, dimensions are physical. When you move left by 1 foot, you as a physical thing experiencing that dimension.
Answer his
Well,
question.
no, wait, well, that's a
The
difference.
fuck does that have to do with his question?
Bend a foot
Well,
length.
exactly. He's arguing that dimensions, basically space, which is 3-dimensional, is not physical. You can move around in this space.
Can you bend a non-physical unit of measurement?
We got chaos here.
You've got
Yeah.
well, I don't understand your problem. You've got 3 dimensions. You can move around freely.
Can you bend a non-physical meter?
A non-physical meter? Did you say?
Yes.
Well, yes, we can bend space-time. It is bendable.
How? How can you bend a non-physical meter?
Because
I'm not saying meter stick. I'm saying a non-physical meter. How do you bend?
Well, it does bend. Well, it does bend a meter stick as well as a result.
Not a meter stick. No, that's physical. That's a tangible thing, right?
Let me try to put it.
Yeah, but it bends. The meter bends because the space.
By fixing the speed of light.
The meter lives in space, and if you bend the space, the meter bends as well. Jesus.
And how are you bending the space when it's non-physical?
Wait a minute.
Bend it with mass and energy.
So you're introducing a physical thing to bend a non-physical thing.
Energy. Jesus Christ.
Lord have mercy.
Post an analogy here.
Why can't I finish a sentence?
Rumpus, can you touch? It's just an analogy so that you understand what we're talking about. Can you touch God?
No, because God doesn't exist.
There you go.
How do you know that, Rumpus?
Excellent.
Because space-time.
Well, there's as much evidence for God as there is invisible green pixies, so we'll dismiss it as evidence of absence is absence of evidence is evidence of
I
absence.
posted that way, Brandon. I posted that way because I know he doesn't believe in it, right? So
Yeah, you can't touch any space either, Rumpus.
You didn't make a point. Your point was entirely vacuous. So
no,
you can't touch any space, Rumpus.
Hey guys,
do anything with something that doesn't exist. That was my point.
But we can see the evidence of bent space-time. Things like the gravitational lensing that Kosho brought.
That's just a story that you.
Hold on. We've got pictures. We've got pictures of bent space-time.
What?
Okay,
That's what the pictures of the gravitational lensing are. Jesus
There's also
Christ.
there's also predictions made by these.
I got to ask about the meter stick. I want to ask about the meter stick. If the meter stick shrinks, is it still a meter?
Yes, but the space-time is bent, so the dimensions it's in, but the dimensions of that space, we're still talking about going along a length of it as being the same.
Okay, so the meter.
The analogy is that the meter is the space-time. You can't point to space-time saying it's bending the meter when the meter is space-time in the analogy.
No, the meter's not space-time. The meter is a length, a dimension, occupies a dimension. When space-time is bent, it changes that length, so the length of a meter changes.
I don't think you know how analogies
That
work.
doesn't make any sense.
Well, you don't. Yeah, well, it's difficult to. Yes, it's not
No,
trivial.
it's not difficult to
don't
understand.
basic physics.
Hold
You're
on,
not going to
hold
understand
on.
general relativity.
Don't go into that thing. Here, I'll tell you why it doesn't make any sense. Because it's fucking nonsense, and you have to twist your brain in a pretzel to understand it.
We've done tests on this,
It
Brandon.
doesn't require a
We have
pretzel
done
twisting.
experiments and observations that show this is the case.
Well, it's all
Okay,
it's
so
relative,
just
right?
think about this, though. Think about the point percentage is making. So you've got a square meter of empty space, right? And you got a meter stick in there. A meter stick square or sized area of this empty space.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Okay, you bend it. What do you still have? A fucking meter of empty space.
A bent meter.
Nothing is
A
bent.
bent meter in space-time is straight.
You bend it. It actually, because from somewhere else, it would look bent.
Where?
Oh, so it's an optical thing? So is it an optical thing then?
It's in reality. It is bending
Hold on.
physically.
Hold on. Hold on.
Bending physically.
Time is refraction.
Hold on. Hold on.
And it's not refraction. That's nothing to do with refraction. There's no air. There's nothing to cause that because the
Is
effects
it
of
an
that
optical thing?
Hold on. The effects of that gravity. There is
I
no
muted him. I muted him.
Rumpus, shut the fuck up for a minute. Let me ask my question.
Okay.
Is it an optical thing? Then you just said that the light will look
No, it's
bent.
not optical. No, it's not.
How do you know?
It's actually a physical change.
How do you know?
Because there's nothing to cause an optical change, but we know that there's a thing of general relativity which we have tested, which we know is a real thing, things like the orbit of Mercury, also things like gravitational redshift. There are about 10 proofs of Einstein gravitational waves. Oh my God, let me finish, you git. Brian, shut up while I'm in the middle of a sentence. So we've got gravitational waves. So we've got about 10 proofs, of experimental observational proofs that gravitational
are they all as good as your?
The general
are they all as good as
relativity
this
is a
one?
real thing.
Are
We've
they
got
all?
10
Hey,
proofs
say it like that,
general
and it becomes
relativity is
more
a
real.
thing. So when you say,
are they all as good as that proof that you just offered about the light bending around a quasar, where you said it looks like it's bent, but then claimed it was physical?
it is physical.
What did he show you?
I have a feeling if we went through all 10,
the optical change. If you move something, move something's position. Optically, it changes as well. Jesus Christ!
Would he show you an Einstein ring, some lights in the sky, and said that's space-time bending?
he hasn't even showed us anything. I assume he's talking about this quasar gravitational lens shit.
These were predicted by general relativity. All
Who
these
cares what you predicted? We don't care about your predictions.
Well, that's how we test whether something's valid. If something makes 10 predictions, yes, it is. That's exactly what it is.
No, it's not. That's how you. But that's how you shoehorn a bullshit story to explain things in the way you want to explain
whether
it.
something is true or not. If it makes
No, it's not. No, it's
okay,
not.
so hold on, Rumpus. Your argument is that we could look at a physical thing, see that it's bending, and then say that the non-physical space-time is bending, right?
It is physical in the sense that when you move around, that's a physical operation.
Okay,
so
well,
the bending of oh my God, let me finish a sentence.
Go ahead.
So when you bend space-time, it's a physical operation. Atoms, things like gravitational waves, for instance, that causes the physical size of the legs of the light.
Yeah, you're pointing to physical things again. Okay, so I'm going to reiterate Brandon's question. So you have this, and you have to conceptualize it. This, like cubic meter of 3D space. All right, there's nothing physical there that you can point to. The only way you know is because you're imagining it. You're conceptualizing it.
Yeah, but if you put something physical there, it's affected.
Yeah, but hold up.
So you therefore can test.
1 second. So far, we only have this conceptualized 3D space. This cubic meter of 3D space, right? And now it's bending, okay? Yeah. How do you know it's bending? Without having a physical thing that you're looking at.
Observe it's bending.
Again, there's nothing physical to see. How do you know it's bending?
Well, you put something there. Obviously, there's nothing to see. You can't tell. But if you do put something physical there, you can see that it gets bent.
Okay, so now we agree a physical thing can bend.
But it's not caused
conception.
It's the space that's bending, and that causes physical things in it to bend.
Okay, so in and of itself, the conception is not bending, right?
Yes, it is. Space is bending, yes.
Space-time is bending.
You just said it requires a physical thing inside to be bending.
To bend.
You just said, hold up, Brumpus. You just said a second ago, it requires a physical thing inside to be bending.
No, to observe. I didn't say it requires a physical thing for it to happen.
Shouting
I
Rumpus.
just said, listen to what I said. You need a physical thing to observe that it's going on. If there's nothing in that space, no light or something, or nothing you can detect, then you can't detect it. So you put something in there, and then you can, when you get this change in space-time, you can then see its effects on
in that case, how do you extricate?
So simple.
Hold up. How do you know between what's bending, whether it's the space-time, the physical thing? So how do you know what's bending?
Because you're making long duration observations of things. When you can predict when a star is going to be in front of another star, it's a pretty sight to see. So you can see that there's no distortions, there's no lensing, there's nothing going on. But you see two stars, one's approaching or going to be in front of the other. When these events take place, where that light is going through the bent space-time, you can see this interaction. It's predicted and it's calculated by GR, and it's confirmed with these observations.
So it's not possible that the light bends for any other reason.
Let me say,
there are many other reasons, but GR predicts it very well.
The great thing about that picture that Kosho presented earlier is that they predicted that due to general relativity, a supernova would appear in a particular place in a particular part of the sky. It was going to be a year later. They used the general relativity to work out what would happen. They then said, in a year's time, a star that we can already see at one part of the sky will appear at another one due to gravitational lensing. They looked there in the years subsequently, and then it appeared just as they predicted. So we can say that a good proof or a verification in science.
Right, but I think the question that they're trying to get at is how do you know it is space itself causing this and not just something like intrinsic to the objects, the physical things that they're bending?
Fucking reflection, man.
Everything in
You're full of shit,
Hey,
dude.
Brandon, may I say something?
Brian,
to
you're
this?
too
Hold
strong.
on, let him answer the question. Hold on.
Let him answer the
You
question,
don't understand
please.
basic physics, Brian, and therefore you're not qualified to understand.
No,
general
no,
relativity.
don't respond to Brian. Respond to what's his name?
Could you repeat your question again?
Mario Coin.
Sorry, who's asking a question?
What's his name? Emerald.
The soft-spoken dude.
Emerald.
From what I think I can gather about the question that's being asked,
You're correct.
is how do you know that what is bending is space and that that's causing the physical things to bend and that there's not just something like intrinsic about the objects themselves that's bending? How do you know that there's
because
this
every
underlying
part
cause?
of the LIGO thing bent. And therefore, with the gravitational waves that went through it, demonstrated that the whole of the LIGO arm was bent, every part of it.
But how do we know that that's not something specific to say matter, and that it has to like deal specifically with the underlying space that they're occupying?
Well, I mean, the way science works is you try and you have as many theories or something about how something can work, and you eliminate all of the possibilities. And therefore, we've eliminated the possibilities. We have a theory that says that these things will bend. Hey ho, along comes a bending exactly the way that the thing was predicted, and therefore we verify that being the case.
Oh, you proved it.
I mean, it could be invisible green pixies, Emerald.
Rumpus,
I mean,
what you're saying,
hold on, there could be invisible green pixies doing it. We can't
wait.
disprove the existence of invisible green pixies doing all the bending. But the way we work in science is we eliminate all the other possibilities that exist, and we have.
Rumpus, what you're saying is akin to me saying I
That's
saw
basic
cars.
science, Brandon. You don't understand how science works, and that's how it works.
Rumpus, literally what you're saying is like me saying I saw a car speed up, and so within that area of 3D space, time just went faster.
I'll give you a better example. Let me just say this, please.
The car didn't actually speed up. Time just went faster.
Yeah, but then what you do in experiment to an observation is you remove all other possibilities, and then
But you haven't done that.
Yes, we have. We know. If you propose something like refraction, which is what Travis is whittering on about, we should know that there's not enough substance to cause that. The science of refraction does not do that. There's not the stuff there to do that. We're left with a theory that does explain it and exactly matches what we see.
Okay, then in that case, what scientific experiment did you do on these lights in the sky to know that they're bending due to space-time and not for any other reason?
Because there is no other things there that can cause it.
What experiment? You said scientific.
Incorrect.
You did science.
Incorrect.
What scientific experiment did you do?
So we know we had a prediction. We said, here's the theory for what this thing should do, where this light will appear as a result of going around this gravitational lens. So we've got this theory, and it makes a prediction saying, right, we are then going to get this here. Hey ho! That year later, to the day, this thing turned up.
So you observed bending of light. You extrapolated said bending, and that's a scientific experiment for you.
Refraction predicts that also, Rumpus.
That's how you verify. That's how
Oh,
science
that's
works.
pathetic.
That's how science has worked for 5
That's not how
years.
science works.
That's
You didn't have
exactly-
Guys.
Exactly.
We're all
You
talking over
eliminate
each
other
other.
possibilities. You eliminate all of the possibilities, and you're left with a theory of the thing that still works, and we're left by a process of elimination, the one that works. And all that same theory also makes lots of other predictions that I've described, and they all have been validated by observation and experiment.
Here's a question. So space out there, it's not a perfect vacuum, right? There are molecules, right?
Yeah.
And over these long distances, billions and billions of light years, you would expect that these molecules would eventually bend light, right?
No.
Due to refraction, regular refraction.
No.
Why not?
Density is not enough, no.
You're saying over billions of light years, there would be absolutely zero effect?
It's so,
just a heads
so
up,
little
we have,
matter there.
We have an
it does
astrophysicist.
absolutely bugger
We have an
all, yes.
astrophysicist in the chat that uses GR for observations. Perhaps he can get in and explain a few things.
Oh, that won't matter.
Oh boy,
Say
that
my
should be
piece
good.
now, Brandon. May I say my piece now?
Who's that?
What they're doing pretty much is like if I say, Brandon, you see that video of the waves, and I tell you, the clouds, how they behave in a wave manner, and I tell you, well, the pattern of the ether is in a wave, and then I show you this: the water moves in a wave, the clouds move in a wave, and then I tell you, you see, that's the pattern of the ether.
No,
That's exactly the same shit they're doing.
Observe
That's
something.
the same shit they doing.
If you
I
manage
know.
to have a universal
Observe something
equation for
and then
ether
write
that
your
could be
theory
applied
in
to
such a
predict this kind
way.
of behavior in many situations, yeah, I would lend that credence. If
And
you
then
come
write
up
your
with some
theory
kind
in
of
such a way that it predicts, quote unquote, what you're gonna see or what you see, and then claim that you have the truth. That's
But if
modern
it works
science
every
today, is
time,
it?
Brandon, yeah, that's how science works. If it works every single
Yes.
time, then you
That's
say
why we're here.
that's
You
the
wouldn't
way it
be here if
works.
it did,
That's
It's
called
very
reverse
simple.
engineering things.
No, it
Rumpus.
wasn't reverse engineered. It made a
Yeah, that's all
prediction
it is.
ahead of time. It said this star will appear round this
That's
the
bullshit.
gravitational lensing galaxy.
called the
And
short
then
Rumpus,
2
you're
days,
dishonest, man.
it then turned up.
That's
But
just
You're
bullshit.
dishonest, Rumpus.
No,
Straight up,
you're
I'm
just
calling you
ignoring
out.
it. You don't
You're
understand how
dishonest.
we
science
don't
works. You
do
don't
these and
understand
then
what I'm
say
saying.
that, like this might just be me, but we don't take this and then claim it to be, the be all end all truth, and that there's no way this could ever be wrong.
Why are
I
you
see this
fighting
as
it so hard?
the most detailed current explanation for what's happening, but totally with an asterisk that says if
No.
a more accurate theory comes along, we can jump ship. That's the
I'm
whole
gonna tell you
point.
why you're wrong, because bio is
have
giving
to.
you. Hold on.
See what the
I'm gonna
stars
tell you
are.
what is wrong, because percentage is giving you an alternative, and you're just dismissing it because it doesn't fit your narrative.
I
You
didn't
see,
dismiss the
it's
alternative.
not. No. It's not that you don't. That
He's
you
not
think
giving
that
an
you have it all
alternative.
settled down.
He has no evidence to support what
he
he's
doesn't
saying.
know that you're
He's
right.
zero.
Rumpus,
Zero
I'm calling you
evidence.
out. You're being dishonest because I
You're being
asked
moron.
you straight up. Hold up, guys.
Straight up what?
I asked him straight up if it's basically they'll proportionally be affected. For instance, if you have a short distance here with more density in the medium, if you'll have the same refraction proportionally to a very long distance with less density in the
You can
medium.
ignore it. The density is so low.
No,
in space,
not if you
can
increase the
ignore
scale.
refraction effect.
Okay? Eventually
Density is
there
so
will be an
low,
effect.
You've only got one bloody hydrogen atom on average per cubic meter. It
Okay,
does
and we have
nothing.
billions of light years.
It's irrelevant. It's all the same density.
You can't say it's irrelevant. That's dishonest of you.
Percentage. To get refraction, you've got to have sharp changes in density.
Think of it
That
like this.
doesn't happen.
Percentage is
If you
right.
just look
Think
at
of it like
space.
this.
This is wrong.
Guys,
Percentage is right.
guys,
Let
please
me
don't talk
answer.
over each other.
That does happen, Rumpus.
Let me give you an example, Rumpus. Let's say you have a piece of glass. Hold on, Left Lane.
Not through
You have a
empty
piece.
spaces.
You're
Obviously
looking.
it goes through a bloody
Rumpus,
galaxy or something.
Pay attention to this example. You have a piece of glass, right? And then you can see through it. And then 10 meters away, you have another piece of glass. You're gonna look less. And then another 10 meters. It's only one piece of glass, but over distance, it's gonna accumulate a lot of.
But that doesn't exist. You're talking about glass, which has
What
got
do
a
you mean
major
doesn't-
density gradient.
Lord have mercy.
In space, there is one molecule of hydrogen, one
Why are
Now
we
he knows how many
entertaining
molecules
cubic
there is in
meter.
space.
All
Now he
right.
knows
That's
how
just
many
not
molecules.
enough to do what you're talking about.
I got an idea. Let me read this super chat and then let's move on from talking to Rumpus about that because he's like a true believer. Hold on, let me read this. Godzilla 37. Proof of God would be the miracle of Rumpus finally telling the truth. Thank you, Godzilla.
Obviously, this
Appreciate
guy
that.
he's a science denier. He's obviously a science denier. So
I
you
know.
think
Everybody who
of science-
disagrees with you is a science denier. I know.
Correct.
I know.
Can we have Chronic
Absolutely
explain
correct. Well
how
done,
he
Brandon.
uses
You got
GR
it.
for these observations? Can we have Chronic, someone who does it in the
Why-
field rather
why?
than us layman?
Yeah, and can we also have Chronic or another Glober other than Rumpus agree that you could get the same angle of refraction with extremely large distances and densities like mediums that have less density
Not
versus
through empty space,
short
you can't.
distances with mediums that have more density?
Not through empty space.
All right,
you
let's hear
can't.
Chronic. Let's hear what Chronic has to say on the subject. Go ahead, Chronic.
After Chronic, clean.
Percentage. Can you present? So can you present through long distance observation through space, huge distances, that you can develop some sort of idea, some theory that can describe what we see observationally better, with better accuracy and higher precision than GR. If you can do that,
Well, that's my
then,
point. You can't. My point is that we have refraction,
do that.
right? We don't have. Let me finish. So we have refraction. We don't have a perfect vacuum, right? We're talking about these obscenely large distances. There's no reason why over these distances, with the super small amount of matter that's in this space, that you will have refraction of these rays of light. There's no reason why you won't.
Prove these long,
Traditional refraction, right? Not gravitational refraction.
This is
So now, if you
fucking
guys are
horseshit.
saying, hold up. So if you guys are saying that these lights are only bending because of gravitational refraction, my question is, how have you extricated that from the regular refraction?
First, prove a fucking light year.
So first of all, Rumpus has been handling this perfectly, in my opinion. Just for the 3 minutes that I've been.
Okay, you lost credibility right there. You don't even need to continue with the rest of your answer.
Answer his question, Product.
Yeah. So space being a near perfect vacuum, you're conflating. So it seems like you're not understanding atmospheric.
You don't
refraction.
understand?
You understand his question,
atmospheric refraction through extremely short distances relative to the incredibly large distances that we're observing.
Prove to me he's incredibly. Can you prove to me there's
Hold on, come on, Brian.
density?
Hold on,
Let him
guys.
finish a sentence.
Guys, let's let
Yeah,
this Chronic get his sentence
let
out
me
here.
get
Go
it
ahead.
through. So I, just like Rumpus has been saying, and Emerald, if you can please, so you're really good at questioning the what if, what about this, what about that, but
He asked
if
you
you
a
can
question.
develop,
Don't ask
if
him
you
a
can
question.
develop.
Yeah, like I don't know why you're trying to
Let him
reverse
finish
it.
his point. Jeez, he's barely
Answer his
spoken.
No, he's gonna say the same thing as what the other guy said.
well,
Show us.
yeah, but
I'm asking
let him-
you in
He
your
hasn't
model where you say
spoken
it's
as much as you, has
definitively
he?
gravitational
He has not
lensing.
spoken
How
as
have you
much as
separated
you.
that
He's
from
only just had about
traditional
5
lensing,
sentences. You've
refraction?
had about 50 sentences. How about letting him have 3 or
Shut up,
4?
Rumpus. He was asked the
Rumpus,
question.
How have
shut
you
up.
extricated gravitational lensing from atmospheric lensing? It's a simple question.
From first principles of how
Which is?
how GR works, and
Okay,
light
which
rays
is?
following geodesics.
So you're saying that atmospheric refraction won't happen over these huge, distances, billions of 7.5 billion
What
light
atmosphere
years.
is there? What atmosphere is there?
There is
Your
atmosphere. It's
first
not a perfect
principles are
medium.
horse shit.
It's not a perfect vacuum. You know this.
Okay. But
So
it's-
over
it's
7.5
just
billion
like
light
Rumpus-
years, you
just
have
like Rumpus has
molecules.
been
You're saying
saying.
that the light won't bend at all?
Just like Rumpus has been saying.
Lord have mercy. All right.
The-
I respect
Wait a
you.
minute. I don't understand, Chronic. Oh,
Can I
hold on a
counter
minute.
Chronic?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Gleam,
Let's go to
Gleam.
Gleam. Go, Gleam.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I don't think Rumpus handled it well, because there was things like, oh, there's nothing in that medium, and you know that there's dark energy in that medium that we don't know how it interacts with light, so we can't say anything of the absolute sort. However, wait there. I just want to say this to Chronic. There is another explanation or another theory that can be used equivalent measure, let's say, and it's that neo-Lorentzian relativity.
Gleam, as far as we know, it does not interact with light.
Here's something
Yes,
else.
as far as we know, and we don't know anything about it. Come on.
Dude, there could be a ceiling up there.
Which means it could.
As far as they know, there's a
Those
ceiling up
stars are
there
right
with a
there,
projection
Brian.
of a fucking universe, and they're boggling their fucking brains with all this mathematical
All
garb.
right, Brian. All those stars are reflections, and they're right there.
The idea that we know everything between us and 7.5 billion light years away is the height of arrogance, in my opinion.
No, we know pretty
But
well.
even, can I say something, Brandon? Even in their own
Yeah, go
paradigm,
ahead, Paul.
even in their own paradigm, they say the atmosphere refracts light, right? We all agree to that.
Of course.
If you notice, all these observations about these stars bending around are really close to the star or whatever they're looking at. How do you know there's not something being given off by the star, not space-time, causing the bending? Which means you'd have to know exactly what's happening at that star, whatever's going on there. You'd have to know completely. If you want to throw space-time in there, but they don't. They say they do by spectroscopy, but do they really? No.
Space-time is refraction.
Let the record show that they were not able to delineate the difference between atmospheric lensing and gravitational lensing.
I wrote it in the book.
Clearly can. We clearly can.
How?
It won't be possible to do that through interruptions percentage. Would you agree?
We gave you guys time to answer. Go ahead. How? How are you showing the difference?
Percentage. What
Come
is
on,
the
like
difference?
first principles on fucking on
Sorry, he got
relativity.
half a second.
Brian,
Brian decided.
Brian. Go ahead, Chronic.
Percentage. What is the difference between the density of our atmosphere and the density of interstellar space?
I see your question, and I raise you, what is the difference in distance between the distances we have here and the distances we're looking at there?
Okay.
It's all relative. It's all relative.
Will you answer his question?
Can you answer the fucking question, bro?
He should have, percentage should have to answer the question because he asked a question first.
Again, you get the same angle of refraction with short distances and mediums that have more density, with longer distances and mediums that have less density.
It would accumulate.
It's proportional.
That seems the obvious reason.
Yeah, isn't that true, Chronic?
Space-time is refraction. From a layman's explanation, is that we can make these observations of stars and they're not exhibiting this type of refraction or a bending. It's only occurring in predictive moments using GR when they're crossing paths in the line of sight.
That's cool. Stop saying layman every fucking time. Like, we have to have a fucking PhD to understand what's being talked about.
No. You don't at all. You don't at all.
Has anyone here seen a star crossing another star in their lifetime? Has anyone seen that?
Hey, Chronic.
Of course.
I think the answer.
We see it thousands of times a year.
Thousands
of times a year.
From the Earth?
Chronic, I think the answer to your question is that on Earth, it's 1 × 10 to the 25th cubic meters per molecule of molecules. And in interplanetary space, it's 1 × 10 to the 7th.
You go to say crazy.
What's the difference? What's the magnitude difference of that, Lael? Do you know?
The magnitude difference.
Yeah.
18, I guess. I don't know how to do magnitudes, okay? But I just, at least that's what, I don't know, I've never measured it, but that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson said, and I don't know, is that actually something you've measured, Chronic?
Percentage. It's sorry, Lael, I wasn't following exactly. I wanted to get to a statement percentage made that's not.
Lael said an SR-71 would go across Russia in 7 seconds. That's who
I never said that.
So it's not.
I got it on my channel, Lael.
Can we not?
Don't lie.
Well, hey,
Panda crew here.
way to change the
Panda
subject.
crew must love you, Brandon.
Sorry, you said the short range observations through an atmospheric gradient are proportional to long range through a smaller gradient. It's not quite true. There's examples of this observationally. These gravitational lensing targets, hundreds and hundreds of them through galaxies and quasars, but also thousands every year we observe through star and star interactions.
Hold on, are you saying that
star crossing in front of a star that are much closer?
Are you saying that the very little,
they're not long distance compared? They're not long distance compared to quasar lensings.
I say a galaxy is 100 miles wide. That's my claim. A galaxy is 100 miles wide. You could never fucking use first principles to prove that or disprove that. Whoever he trying to invoke first principles, he don't even understand.
A galaxy is way more than 11 or 100 miles wide because the United States is over 3,000 miles wide.
He's pointing at that you can't definitively show that one way or the other.
There's a large
I
distribution.
I can't.
The thing I want to.
All I'm trying to say is,
sorry.
let me just finish it. There's a large distribution.
Yeah.
You can respond percentage. There's a huge distribution from very, very, very close to very long of lensing events that we observe thousands and thousands of times a year. So from single star to single star lensing at very close distances to galactic, macro, regular, gravitational lensing through galaxies and quasars at millions of light years. So there's a huge distribution of distance.
From Earth, has anyone observed a star occulting another star? From Earth?
Yes, thousands of times a year.
Hold on. Hold up. I have a simple question. I don't know who I'm talking to, Chronic or whoever was speaking. So
I'll show a GIF.
let me just ask you a simple question, okay? There are molecules in outer space, if you will. It's not perfect vacuum. You agree, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The answer is
These molecules will bend light rays that hit it, right?
They will absorb a photon and re-emit, but
basically,
I
if
wouldn't
it's
say
not
one molecule is going to bend a
Well, you could say the same thing for our, like, on the surface of Earth. You could say one molecule won't bend it, but the point is, they have a very small amounts of bending such that they accumulate with more molecules. You agree?
But it's a different principle that's causing refraction versus gravitational lensing.
I'm not talking about gravitational lensing right now. I'm just talking about atmospheric refraction, or refraction with these molecules. You agree that with more molecules, there's going to be more bending, right?
Sure.
Okay. Now, if we have more molecules just spread over a longer period, the same amount of molecules that we had down
I know
here.
exactly what you're saying.
All right. So there it would be like a thing in outer space that there would be this sort of lensing, this atmospheric lensing, right?
Yes, but what I just you said
Stop
this
there.
earlier,
Hold up. Stop there. So yes. How do you distinguish between that bending and the bending of space-time? How do you distinguish between them?
We have a wide distribution of distances at which gravitational lensing is observed, and if this were the case and it were relative to distance, then we'd expect the closer ones to have much less of an effect, and they don't.
Precisely. Because he's using atmospheric lensing. And
hold up. How are you distinguishing between them just based on distance?
He's saying that the amount of lensing is the same regardless of the distance.
Is there a person on this channel
gravitational or
please have a voice
gravitational
to say that there's no light years out there and nobody's ever proven that? Y'all are arguing fucking
the
la
other thing
la
to
land.
add is that we get refraction when there's a change in the index of refraction. Like if it were just a homogeneous atmosphere with no gradient, then we wouldn't expect light to bend. It changes when the index changes. So if we've got this continuous density in like interstellar space, and that index of refraction is not changing, then even no matter how far you go.
Prove interstellar space.
Do Goldbergs agree to that the gravitational lensing will be the same regardless of the amount of space?
That seems to be.
Will you please prove interstellar space?
So even though it's bending of space-time, the space part it's not important.
If you
the amount of space isn't important. You can get light to bend just as much as you want in a short space versus a long space.
He's saying there's no gradient, you dumbass. Listen to what he's saying.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's something from the star causing it, not space-time.
There's two different examples now in the chat from earlier.
Nobody knows what a star is, dude. Y'all are talking la la land horse shit.
Thanks. You said that 3 times.
That doesn't answer my question. Back to my question. This bending of the light around the star. How do you know it's something other than space-time being emitted from the star that's causing the bending?
We can go through and we can hypothesize a dozen or more different explanations for this. If we check
very manipulation.
Let him finish.
If we successfully check, cross off all 11, and the 12th one that explains it the best is gravitational lensing, then that's what we stick with.
I say atmospheric lensing explains it better.
Well, have we done that? Is there 11 of 12 that have been falsified somehow?
Please quantifiably show that percentage instead of
Hold on.
literally just saying. You just say the English words, man. You gotta.
Is there 11 of 12 explanations for this phenomena that have been falsified?
I'm giving a general example. Like I'm just describing it general.
We're talking about a specific phenomenon, though. So, what other hypothesis for this phenomena have you looked into and ruled out?
A different type of occultation, stellar variability. I mean, there's a handful.
What about the stars not being?
Have you ruled out that it's a projector screen? It's a screen up there. Have you ruled out even that?
Give me one example and tell me how you falsified it.
We've been looking for the Illuminati projection, onto
well, you can see it in your planetarium. I can show you the same thing in a planetarium.
Hold on.
You can't even prove that. Sorry, Benny.
That's all right. Give me an example of a hypothesis that you've falsified for this specific situation.
Sure. So stellar variability. Stars. A lot of stars are variable. There's different types of classifications that we have for stars that are variable. And by variable,
what's the hypothesis? What's the fucking hypothesis, dude?
All right. Okay. Am I gonna get to finish?
Just give us the hypothesis.
He said that stellar variability is the cause of it. And that's
He's mumbling and
Yeah, let him
rambling on,
talk.
bro. What's a
Let him talk.
hypothesis? People don't mumble and ramble through. What's a hypothesis?
He's been
Yes,
interrupted
it's
every single time.
Yeah, hold
stellar
on. Let me.
variability.
Yeah, I interrupted him because he's mumbling
Yeah,
shit.
Jeremy,
Don't
you're not
fucking
helping
mumble
the
at us. Tell him,
situation
give
at
us
all.
the
Please be
hypothesis.
quiet.
Jeremy, don't spiral yourself, man. Let him get to the end.
You're right, Jeremy. Fucking waffling.
All right, let's
Yep,
hear
so-
it. What's
so one-
stellar what is it?
Yeah.
Again, sorry.
Stellar variability. It just means that the different types of stars vary in brightness over time. Just for a number of different reasons. And they're
okay.
they have different.
What's the hypothesis
they can be
that links
classified.
this to?
Yeah. So this lensing event could possibly just be the star varying, getting brighter for whatever reason, and then getting dim. And then
You mean like twinkling? You mean like twinkling, dude?
What is the hypothesis? Why are you mumbling and rambling?
I'm directly answering.
Oh, guys, can we get to the? Can we just get to the end of this one line of questioning
Can you
here?
have
So,
him give us the hypothesis,
Jeremy,
please?
why is it that I can understand the hypothesis from what he said, but you can't?
all right.
I
So
didn't
you're.
hear anything.
Yeah, I can tell
So
why. 'cause
all
you're
he's
interrupting him.
saying is that the stars twinkle. That's what it boils down to. Okay, the stars just change in brightness through their cycle. Now, how did you falsify that is the cause of the?
Hold on, what's the
gravitational
lensing event? Can you define the lensing event?
Okay, there's multiple questions now. Brandon, so the
Answer mine first.
Brandon asked me. So falsifying that one, for example, is that postulating that it's stellar variability is falsified by no a priori knowledge of different types of stellar variability that we've classified over all of the course of astronomy and studying variable stars to explain years of a baseline, years of baseline brightness unchanging, and suddenly getting extremely bright and then faint. Does this make sense?
Hey, does anyone understand what the actual hypothesis is?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got that completely. It was clear.
I can tell you what the hypothesis is if he tells me what Can you answer my question? What's gravitation? What do you mean by gravitational lensing?
What
Can
he's
you
essentially
or
saying
lensing
is that
event?
this variability would be essentially a coincidence, that we understand the
how you
luminosity of a
manipulate
star
anything
for
with
years and years,
hypothesis.
and then
Hold on a second.
coincidentally, when it's in front of another star, suddenly it appears way brighter. It's essentially a coincidence hypothesis.
Gleam, you said you know what his Gleam,
Yeah.
you said you know what his
I'll cut it
hypothesis
down.
is. Let's hear it.
Yeah,
Just
I'll cut
give
it
us
down.
the hypothesis. Thank you.
The hypothesis on the positive sentiment would be that this variability of the star size, blinking, twinkling, is the cause of this gravitational lensing. What they found is that this twinkling is not big enough to cause that effect. In as much data as they've got, it does not match that hypothesis.
Hold on. Isn't the lensing
hold on for a
event
second.
the twinkling of said star?
So you realize that's not a valid hypothesis, right?
It's not a twinkling.
Could you please define the lensing event?
The lensing event is here's the technical
Like
definition.
in terms of observation, what do we observe with
the,
lensing
yeah.
event?
Okay, the technical definition is if there are 3 consecutive data points that are 3 sigma or larger than the brightness level measured for the previous 2 years of baseline. There you go.
Okay.
That's defined as the lensing event.
So your hypothesis is that the lensing event, i.e. the change of brightness of stars, is caused by stellar variability, i.e. the change of brightness of stars.
Huh?
I know.
You asked for the technical definition.
I know, and I'm saying
what defines the lensing event.
The stellar variability is the lensing event. So you're saying that if we're observing stellar variability, it's explaining this lensing event. You're saying if we observe change of brightness of stars, it's explaining the change of brightness of stars.
No,
That's your
not at all.
hypothesis.
No.
Lord have mercy.
He was
No,
giving
the
you a
3 stars.
definition for something separate
The
from
3
a
points
hypothesis.
is imperative.
What's the difference between the stellar variability and the lensing event if they're both the change of brightness of stars?
Guys.
I just explained it.
It's a signal to noise argument. If a star is measured to have a variability of a certain amount, and in some cases we have stars that have very consistent amounts of brightness, which is to say very little variability, and then all of a sudden during the lensing event we have this massive 3 sigma or more deviation, then chances are extremely likely that that is not due to just the natural variability.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
can I ask
How is Emerald always perfectly deciphering what I'm what I say?
That was exactly how I was thinking.
Because I try listening to people instead of interrupting them.
This is where our nerd minds are being applied here. All our bright nerd minds, this is where it's being applied to fucking Narnia. That's what my wife just said. They're talking Narnia.
All right. Have you ever heard of the
The
inverse
wife is
square
as
law?
clever as you, Brian.
Hello? Have you ever heard of the inverse square law?
Of course.
Okay.
Emerald, forgive me. Could you repeat what you said again?
Asking a question.
Can I finish my question here?
Yeah, what is that? What is the inverse square law?
Do you believe the inverse square law works as they describe?
Oh. There's no light years. Stars are not
It's a question for
massive
Chronic.
bodies in the sky.
It's a question for Chronic.
He's roboting to me. Sorry.
It was basically, do you subscribe to the inverse square law being a real thing that we can experience?
Sure.
Okay, so can you explain how, if the inverse square law works, like did they say, how can you see something hundreds of trillions of miles away? Am I roboting?
Yeah, you're right. He's saying like if it's
trillions of
inverse square, how do we see things that are trillions of miles away?
Hundreds of trillions
Sorry,
of
hundreds
miles
of
away.
trillions.
Because it's hundreds of trillions of huge.
What comes to your eye? Lack of resistance.
Silent got it. The inverse square law
Millions
says
of
that
trillions. Anyways, millions of trillions.
You guys are a bunch of clowns, man. That's what you guys are.
If it decreases by the inverse square law, then if it's a sufficient magnitude, then that magnitude, even though after it's decreased magnitude when it reaches us, is still visible, then it's obviously that large. That's the whole point.
Yeah. As I said, I'm sorry, I was confused. Is it just a question of how do we see things in the sky?
No,
Guy's too
the
smart for us,
question is,
lad. This guy is
if the
too smart
inverse
for
square
flat
law is what they
earthers.
say.
No,
roboting.
It's a
No, you're
tired
good now.
light argument.
You're better now, Scrat. You're just a little low.
It's tired light, as in
So
how
they
does
say
the light
that,
travel that so long without fading or attenuating?
Okay, so you're postulating that the light gets tired and it gets tired and stops because it's tired.
No, but like
Question is, no,
if it's hundreds of trillions of miles squared as a factor, how do we see the stars?
Well, because they're extremely bright, radiating isotropically in all directions.
That's how they
You're so
determine the
massive.
size and the brightness of them, y'all.
Guys, they're gonna have a story for
There's something
every
about-
single fucking thing you ask them. This is like the guys in the
there's a
old
way to-
days who calculated how many angels fit on the head of a pin.
There's
Never
a way to
ending.
there's a way to measure the apparent brightness of a star or a galaxy and the absolute brightness of an object. There's two different. Those are two different fundamental quantities.
How would you gather the absolute brightness of a star?
Yeah.
Inside. I forgot off the top of my head, but it's the apparent brightness you measure at a fixed distance of like 10 parsecs or something. I forget. You can look it up pretty easily.
I guess this boils down to that. So,
Emerald,
are you
what was
basically
the
saying-
purpose of your question there?
Like I'm trying to figure out like what information we're able to gather. So we can clearly get the apparent brightness by looking at it. And it seems like then to get the absolute brightness, we have to take into account its distance, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you
How do we
compare it
infer
to?
the
Extinction,
distance?
not just distance. Extinction. I mean, there's a bunch of different things.
Is everything compared to the sun readings? Is this the relative benchmark?
There's also a few. No, it's not. It's not tied to just the absolute magnitude of the sun. But there's. I'm sure. I know Kosho has talked about this several times. There's different distance ladders that we can use, so we know we have a very good understanding of of how
So how
the
did you work
brightness
out?
of a variable star, a specific type of variable star that's very
Right.
well behaved, and we can characterize it very very nicely, called a Cepheid variable, is
Yeah.
correlated to its distance.
How do you calculate? How do you calculate? Let's say a star is 300 light years away. How do you calculate that distance?
Chronic, I have a question for you.
Shut up, Leo. I asked the question.
Parallax is a good way to do it.
Parallax.
Yep. Leo, what's up? I have to get back to work in less.
All right, this will sound very in left field. If I had,
I wish I got paid for doing nothing.
Good one.
If I had a
good one, he said.
If I had a point source of light that was 20 miles in size across, and say 50,000 lumens,
50,000
how far would it have to be from the United States before it wouldn't light up the United States?
This is what I'm using my last 2 minutes on.
Oh my God,
Chris, he's only got 2 minutes, Chris. Say what's up,
Yeah, 2 minutes before he's got to get back to mathematically pulling the wool over fucking humanity's eyes.
Please.
Chris, he's not gonna be able to answer that in 2 minutes.
Yeah,
man.
you're gonna need to like DM me that or something.
Sure.
That's
I suppose this is sort of lumped in with someone else's question. I think it was Pete's about like how do you know the distance? Like how useful or to what range is parallax effective, and what do you like use as your two positions to judge parallax by?
it's obviously, I mean, it's very clear to see. It's very very clear to understand. But it's extremely effective the closer the object is to you.
Before you go, will you admit you don't know what a star is?
Of course not, Brian. Of course not. But Emerald.
Hang on. How do you know how close an
so
object is if you're gauging
Emerald,
everything in
you
light
can-
years?
Parallax. Emerald. You can go online and actually look through a very very detailed catalog. It's from the Gaia mission, GAIA.
Which means Earth.
Yeah, and you can see how the precision and the uncertainties on the distances and parallax measurements for billions of stars in this catalog differs. Changes as a function of distance.
You have to have one value before you can get another value.
I didn't catch that.
That's why I asked you, is the sun your benchmark?
You have to have one value before you can get another. Simply because you said parallax is how we measure distance to stars, that doesn't mean anything if you don't have any of the values.
I guess so. Sure.
No, not you.
You see this nonsense answer. That's why these people shouldn't be allowed here.
No, but when you're doing parallax, the only distances that you need to know are the fixed ones that's fixed some far in the distance, and then the ones that where you're moving. Where you're moving.
How do you know?
How do you know those ones, Kosho?
No, the one that's far in the distance.
How do you know those ones?
Oh, I'm answering the question, sir.
Uh-huh.
You just know that the ones in the distance that you're using as fixed, you're using them as fixed. So the distance doesn't matter.
How do you know those distances? You haven't answered the question.
Because they're fixed. I'm telling you,
Fixed
they're
to what
fixed.
distance? Fixed to what distance and how you figure it out?
Listen, this is why you're asking questions. You're not listening to the answer that hasn't been finished
To
yet.
what distance and how
Listen,
you figure it out? Hold on, Travis.
Yeah, when you're moving, let's say you're doing a parallax when you're doing it from two sides of Earth. You know the distances between the two sides on Earth, and you know that the fixed one is in the same position from those two sides on Earth.
No,
So you can use,
hold on, Travis. Kosho, you keep declaring things. You haven't told us how you figure out the first measurement.
He doesn't think they matter the distance.
No, I didn't say they don't matter. Listen to what I'm saying.
He did say an answer.
If they're fixed from both those two positions, the positions that you're making the parallax from, the two positions. If it doesn't move in position, then you can use it as being fixed.
How do you know how far that one is? If that's the fixed one, how do you know how far that one is?
No, but you don't need to know how far that one is. That's not part of the measurement.
Then what is it
What do you
useful
gauge
for?
against then?
because you see how the object that you're measuring moves in comparison to that.
Yes. So how do you gauge what actual distance it is?
You by measuring from the distance that you moved. So if you're doing two sides of the Earth, for example, the distance from one position to the other position on the other side of the Earth.
How
and
do
then
you
the
know
position,
how fast are they going?
No, hang on. So one base of the triangle will be a few thousand miles, and the rest will be
How does he know?
light years away.
I gotta head out. It's nice talking to you guys, though.
How do they? How do you
see you,
know
Brian.
how fast it's going?
Awesome comment.
that's not important.
It's not important.
not part of
Listen
All
to
a big
this
belief
guy.
system.
Oh,
It's frustrating as fuck. It's all a
It
big
is
belief
Yeah,
system.
anything
It's
we
going
want
back
to
the spinning
know,
water.
they don't think is important. Anything we want to know, they don't think is important.
I didn't
Yes,
say it was not
true,
important.
true that, true that.
Nobody said it's not important. It's just not part
just
of the
said it right
calculation.
now, 5 seconds
You're
ago.
not measuring a moving object. If you're measuring a moving object and measuring its speed or something, you'd use something like aberration. But we're talking about parallax.
Kosho, do you
Parallax
agree with
is
this statement?
when you're measuring something that's not moving.
In parallax, Kosho, do you agree if something can be way far away and going faster, and it can be or can be closer and moving slower, and you're gonna see the same fucking speed of movement?
Right. Very good.
It's
What
really
does that matter
simple.
when we're
I don't
talking
know
about
why you guys.
Why does that matter when we're talking about
Oh,
parallax?
you fucking Mongols.
Yeah,
How is that relevant to parallax?
Because you're trying to decide the distance to the stars, right? So what he's saying is something moves seemingly slightly. It could be nearer, moving slower, as opposed to far away, moving faster, right?
Yeah, but we're
No
not
way
trying to
of
measure
gauging.
its speed. We're not measuring its speed. When you're doing
Know
parallax,
that.
you're not measuring. You're not
They don't
trying to
get
measure the speed.
They don't get it,
Know
Pete.
that.
It's not relevant here. That's what I'm
Forget
saying.
about speed. Just think
You guys know
about the
how
movement. Forget about speed, Kosho. You keep saying speed. Forget about what you're trying to measure is the movement.
Yeah, we're not measuring that either. That's not what parallax measures. You're measuring. You're using the fact your distance that you move that you make into two
What does
observations.
parallax measure? What does parallax
Some
measure?
distance. The distance of some
I
object.
thought you said the distance didn't matter.
No, I said the speed or the motion or the movement doesn't matter. That's not what's being measured.
Again, if you want to measure
No,
the
that's not what
distance,
you
you
said.
cannot use the
Double talk.
parallax,
That is what-
idiot.
I heard him. Yeah, that's what he said, Rob.
So hang on, Kosho. So in light of what Percentage was talking earlier about the
Oh,
vast
he said it was
distances through
fixed.
space and hang on, please, and 1 molecule per square meter. How are you going to gauge a distance of let's say, for instance, 300 light years in relation to your baseline of, let's say, on Earth, 1,000 miles? How are you going to gauge such a distance? The level of parallax you should be able to measure, or you have to be able to measure, would have to be of such a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage that no meaningful results could come out of it.
You're right. We don't use parallax. I don't know what the exact range is, but that sounds like it's about where the cusp is. Because I know outside the galaxy you can't use parallax. So I don't know exactly what the end range is, but yeah, you're right. Because for that reason, there's a range to how far parallax can be used.
So what do you use beyond
tell
that
distance.
then?
Standard candles. That's what Chronic was just touching on about standard candles.
Cephic variables, type 1a
I
supernova,
know
different. There's
But
more
you
than
have to
just
make-
there's more than just parallax to get an
You
idea
have
of
to make a
distance.
lot of assumptions, even with all
How do
those.
you know how bright they are? How do you know
Not
what
a
sort
lot
of
of
energy levels
assumptions,
are
but-
contained within the stars? If you're using standard candles, you have to set a standard by something, right?
How many assumptions, Chronic?
Not not
I'll tell
not
you.
in an exceeding not in an
The assumption of the
exceedingly
size.
amount that makes it unreliable.
All
How about that
nonsense.
answer?
I'll tell you. Assumption of the distance between objects, assumption of the size, assumptions of of the speed. So many fucking assumptions.
Assumption of the nature of stars, right? Assumption that
Assumption of the shape of the ground you're on.
There's also a really cool there's also a really cool
cool Star Wars movie.
There's another method to get distances from something called microlensing parallax that you can observe during a microlensing event. I put a paper in there in the chat on that. But yeah, there's way more ways than just parallax. But I think what Kosho, what you just said a minute ago is true. The sensitivity, you can look at the sensitivity curve for the Gaia mission that is measuring parallax for billions of stars, and the uncertainty gets pretty large.
Billions of stars.
The uncertainty gets large as you get really close to the center of the galaxy, which is 8,000 parsecs, 8,000 parsecs away. So you can see that the uncertainty really sort of blows up.
Let me ask you a quick question, Chronic. Let me ask you a quick question.
So 1,000 light years, I think.
Hang on a sec. Let me ask you a quick question, Chronic. Do you understand that? I take it you're a ball earther, obviously, right? Do you understand that?
15,000.
You understand, Chronic, in a flat Earth realm, right? That the stars necessarily have to be something different than in the ball Earth. Do you understand that in principle?
Yes, of course.
They have to be near. They have to be near, and they have to be. Well, they're the things in motion, right? So they have to be completely different nature. That's why Leo's question's a bit ridiculous. You can't bring a ball Earth into a flat Earth realm and expect it to work in the same way. But you accept that, right?
Sorry,
okay. Have you considered the flat Earth scenario then? Because you're in the flat Earth, what do you call it? And have you considered what the stars might be in that flat Earth setting, just for the sake of kicking it?
Yeah. Of course, none of it makes sense though. But yeah,
none of it makes sense. What have you the stars as being so in a flat Earth realm? What have you the stars as being? Because we admit they're close and they're not of material nature in the same way that the globe Earth gives us. So what have you?
I mean, we've all heard the conversations like they're fake projections by some global cabal Illuminati.
No, I'm not talking about that.
New world order.
I'm not talking about that. In a flat Earth scenario, there have to be something different. So there have to be something which is different than the globe Earth scenario. So forget about the cabal. My best answer would be for reflections. It seems obvious to us, but I just want to know what you have come up with in your own modeling, because you're here in flat Earth realms, right?
Yeah.
I want to hear one person say they're a projection from a cabal. That was an asinine answer. In your model, that could possibly be little green pixies.
Brian.
What an answer, though. I mean, there have to be something.
I'm giving a fun
I say they're
answer,
reflections, but what do you say? What possibilities have you entertained?
What are they reflections? Can you describe these reflections? Can you model these reflections?
I can give you what they're all reflections of in my own thinking. Aristarchus, the divided tree of life, but that's a different matter. I've gone into the flat Earth realm.
I don't know if it's a different matter.
I have to come up with a thought that stars are, because I'm limited by it, because the stars in the sky, it's all have to be different than what the ball Earth tells us. But I've come up with some sort of answer and went with there. That's why on a flat Earth, everything revolves in unison. I've never seen a star cross over another star in my sky. Never. And if anyone has here, let me know. I've never seen it in my sky. They all move in unison, right? And they all sort of reset on an annual basis as well. But I'm just asking you, with your scientific mind, have you ventured into flatland anywhat?
Yeah, of course. I've been here quite a while. But can I show you? Yeah. Can I show you? Can I show you star? With observational, imaging. What would it change? Would it change your?
Why are you stammering, bro? Why are you stammering?
Because I'm okay. What would it change your?
Nervous.
Listen,
it's intellectual tip.
You're totally talking on a lower register. You're speaking very calmly, very controlled, as if you're thinking.
Hey, Travis, how about you shut the fuck up? Not all of us talk the same, right?
Is an educated, mature.
Some people think about what they say before they say it instead of your shit that you spew out of your mouth.
Thanks for backing up your butt point. Listen,
maybe Bio, maybe he needs to think a lot.
You got
not
Bio
fuck it up, right?
Can I show you?
Guys, he's at work, guys. He's at work. He's trying to stay
quiet. Could I ask this guy a question, please?
All you need to do is provide the picture of these two stars crossing the path, right?
Okay. All right. Yep.
Yeah, I have.
Brian's logic. Let's let Brian ask his questioning here.
Hey, Brian, and hey, everybody. Just listening to this. I've been listening to this guy speaking here now for about the past 15 minutes. So, all the distances in your model are all in light years, yes?
No. Sorry,
so the distances to the distance to the sun is not 8 light minutes then, in your model, on average. 8.03.
That's just are you just asking about units or what?
I'm asking you about the distances.
It sounds like you're asking about units, light minutes.
I'm asking you about the distances.
Yeah, units of measure.
Yeah. So you're claiming, right? So you're claiming that. So are you? Hang on, I have to clear this up for me now. Are you claiming the sun is not 8.03 light minutes away in your model?
No.
So what do you mean? And when I said to you distances, and I said all the distances to the stars and the celestial objects in your model is within light years and light times. So you are denying that, or are you agreeing with that, or what?
Sorry, I'm multitasking.
It's a very simple question. I don't see how you have to multitask. I don't see how there's a problem with it. It's a simple yes or no.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, so Polaris is 400 plus light years away in your model, yes?
Yeah. So I forget Dodo.
Yes.
Dodo, you were asking about the motion of a star. Here's one example.
Hang on, sorry. Is that a yes then? Hello?
Kosho put another example in the chat.
Hello?
Yes,
Polaris is 400 plus light years away, yes?
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, So can you then provide us with a one-way speed of light measurement, please? Who did it, when it was done? You know? Can you provide that? Yeah,
No,
because there is no speed of light.
Okay, you win.
Measurement. So that your whole model is out the window then. All the things everything you're speaking about.
Yeah, that's
Well,
according
it's not according to me. It's not according to me. I have Veritasium of Einstein. I have a load of people on my side. Not according to me. It just never happened. So is it according to me that he just admitted that there was no one-way speed of light measurement?
Who claims
Is that according to me?
Who claims that there is?
That's not. Who claims that there is? All you. You're all claiming. You're all claiming the speed of light.
That simple.
You all claim the speed of light. Who claims that there is? You do, Boyjul.
Okay, when have I? Can anyone confirm? Anybody?
Okay, Boyjul, what's the distance to Polaris in your model? What's the distance to Polaris in your model? Yes, you're a global, you have a model, you believe in, that is that. So what is the distance to Polaris?
No. He's putting words in my mouth. I'm asking anybody else. Have I ever said we know the one-way speed of light?
What is the distance to Polaris in your model?
I appreciate that.
So you're denying that the distances to the celestial objects in your model is in light years.
Yes, that's.
I don't know where you're extrapolating this information.
You're denying that. You're denying that. So do you not believe in the globe model now anymore,
Brian, you can connect the dots where you.
Do you believe in the globe model, Boyjul? Yes or no?
I don't see the.
Do you believe in the globe model? Yeah.
Brian, I know he's not going to answer like you want him to answer, but at least let him answer.
Of course he's not.
No, what's after happening here is I'm after just pulling that guy's whole world apart. And Boyjul has come in, and other people have come in to try and save him. You can't save it. There is no one-way speed of light measurement.
Don't let me finish.
You're talking a load of rubbish.
Don't let me finish.
You're all talking rubbish about things in the sky, about effects that we don't observe.
I'm speaking rubbish, so I'm just.
We never observe these effects. We don't observe any of this crap.
Brian.
All right, Brian, come on.
What?
You gotta let him speak, please.
Let him speak, man.
Okay.
At least let him give a chance. We know.
But you know he's.
Listen.
What's the point of leaving him speak though when he's going to speak rubbish? All he's trying to do is save the other guy.
That's what we do here is let people speak. We let them speak, even if it's rubbish. Then we can call them out. All right, we can tell them we disagree with each other. It's all right.
Yeah, walk away.
Thanks, Brian. What is knowing the exact one-way speed or doing an experiment measuring the one-way speed have to do with knowing light year distances? And I'll qualify that with if we can shoot radar at something and get a return, can we not just divide by 2 and then we can know this distance?
No, you can't, because you can't know a two-way speed if you don't know a one-way.
All right, so be beautiful. So the implication of that is that the way that we use radar today, whether it be out at sea, planes, or otherwise, the way that we use radar and know the distances to things, we actually don't know the distances, right? Is that
no? We do know the distances because they're distances that we can measure here on the ground and
beautiful.
On the sea.
So when we use radar,
sorry, excuse me, I haven't finished. Excuse me, excuse me, I have not finished.
Watch this, I apologize.
Excuse me,
I apologize.
Excuse me, I have not finished. You asked me a question, yeah, and I'm sorry. Am I speaking to you or am I speaking to Boyjul? So what you have is an agreed upon convention. Right, and that agreed upon convention is a calculated two-way speed of light. And that calculated two-way speed of light is 671 million miles per hour. No one measured any of that. That's a pure calculation that's agreed upon. Right? You could cut that in half and it won't change the timings of anything with the distances of anything. That won't change anything. Right? What you have is a calculation that's based on the average distance to the sun in the heliocentric model, an average radius value of a globe Earth, right? The assumption that the globe Earth exists and is going around the sun, the assumption that it's taken an offset elliptical orbit. So what you have is 4 assumptions and 2 averages. As an agreed upon calculation. So that's what you've got. That's not a straw man. These are facts.
You could build whatever straw man you'd like, but you can battle them instead of me.
These are facts. I can prove this all day.
Straw men instead of me, Brian.
Not straw men. That's not straw. That's not a straw man.
Which one would you prefer to do?
Okay, I'll lay them out. Right. The 4 pre-assumptions. First, you pre-assume you're on a globe. Secondly, you pre-assume that globe is going around the sun. Third, you pre-assume that the sun there's a particular average distance to the sun. Fourth, you pre-assume that there's an offset elliptical orbit of the sun. All these are all pre-assumptions. You don't have anything. All bouncing radar does not give you a two-way speed of light. How does bouncing radar tell you that the sun is 8.03 light minutes away? You don't have a one-way speed of light.
Because you're battling a straw man, and I'm not a straw man.
You don't have a one-way speed of light measurement. Your guru there a few minutes ago admitted it.
Are you going to let him talk, Brian? Are you going to let him talk?
No, I'm going to tell him he's talking rubbish. I'm going to tell him about it.
It's the same for you, because if you're going to build straw men to fight against, I'm not going to participate.
What's the straw man then, boy Joe?
I'm not made of straw, Brian.
What's the straw man, boy Joe? What's the straw man?
The assumptions.
What is the straw man? You're claiming a straw man. What is it?
We don't today.
What is it? What's the straw man?
We don't today.
What's the straw man?
Let him answer. Brian.
Of all the Globers that speak.
Go ahead.
God damn, man. What is those straw men, or what are the straw men? We don't make these assumptions. At one point in time, sure, there were assumptions made, and then from that you can extrapolate. Today we have measurements. Today we have pictures of Earth. Today we have geodetic surveying. We have the indication of 2 celestial bulbs. We have all of these evidences, Brian. None of these things are assumed. So if you're saying if you're battling a straw man of assumptions, I'm not interested because I'm not made of straw.
You have measurements based on assumptions.
Go ahead, what is the straw man? Boy, you said straw man. What is the straw man I gave you? What straw man?
You're building up a fake argument that you think that I'm making, and you're battling that argument rather than mine.
I'm not battling you. We're speaking about the calculated two-way speed of light convention that's agreed upon. I'm laying out the facts concerning that. You're denying those facts, right? And then you're claiming I'm creating a straw man. I didn't create any straw man. That is your model, Boy Jules.
What has the radius of Earth got to do with that, right?
Because where do you think you got where do you think you got the distance to the sun, the average distance to the sun?
How do you think?
Over a 12-month period. What's the average distance to the sun? How is that calculated on the globe?
Understanding the speed of light and then using radio waves.
But you don't understand the speed of light.
Things we can, whether the Earth is flat or not, we can still use this equipment to understand how far away something is using that equipment.
You can use a bounce to say, yeah, that it's calculated to be this distance away. But that doesn't give you a two-way speed of light measurement. That doesn't give you
how they bounce light off of a black body. How they bouncing light off of a black body that absorbs all radiation.
I know that, Brian. Yeah, I know that. That's more of it.
Very quickly, because it's an easy response. Please,
but don't give him a way out.
Please provide a source that states that the sun is a perfect black body that absorbs all of the spectrum. Please, Brian.
Look up the definition of a black body, donkey. And how do you show me these radar bounces? You show me when you bounced fucking radar off the sun. We get this story all the time, but nobody's ever showed it.
Yeah, that is true, Biodual. I got to be honest with you. I've never seen anything other than the claim. We've looked for it, and we've found kind of conflicting things too. At least I did when I looked for it. That the sun is a black body. That the sun is a black body with caveats. It's not real clear. The radar thing off the sun. I'd like to see evidence for that.
Yeah, it's a black body for the visible light spectrum. If you can see radar, then hit somebody up. but radar doesn't fall under that.
Yeah, it'd be
But
nice
yeah,
to
let me-
get
let
some
me find-
evidence that you can fire radar off the sun. Because from
No,
what
I
I've
got you, I
seen,
got you.
I thought
I'll
it was
find
like a NASA source that we were looking at or something like that that said you can't do that.
No, that's fine. I got you. Don't worry.
Is he saying that radar is not a form of light at all?
It's on the spectrum, but it's not a part of the visible light spectrum.
So you're saying only black bodies? No, they don't absorb all spectrums?
A perfect black body would. A perfect black body would. I'm saying the sun is not a perfect black body. It is a black body when it's concerning visible light. That's what I'm specifically
It's
saying.
only visible. I'm just making sure it's only visible light. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So how do you determine what it's absorbing and not absorbing then?
I don't know, man. I'm going to take it one step at a time instead of looking up 7 different things. Someone else can take it, I guess.
Well, that's your claim,
right.
so why would someone else take it? I mean, you did make that claim. You're making claims about it, so you would have to back that up, wouldn't you?
One
So
at a time.
this whole thing about, you can look at the stars and this one's this far away and this one is, of course, to me it seems like pseudoscience for sure, because I can't tie it to anything concrete on the ground, even if I'm looking through a telescope at these things. And I think that's where somebody else was asking about what's the original, measurement that tells you how far away the star is that you measure all the other stars against. And I understand the parallax thing, but then again, you're going back to your assumptions that you're on a globe, and all that other shit. I don't know. It just doesn't seem very concrete to me, like a concrete science. But I guess if you believe NASA, that's a whole different story, huh?
Yes, I'm seeing that the definition for black body is not a strict one. For instance, it doesn't have to perfectly absorb all wavelengths to be a black body. Turns out the sun fits that description. So I think it can be regarded as a black body, but that doesn't mean that it emits that it absorbs all frequencies.
So what?
Anybody
what
remember
would
that
this
source we were looking at?
Sorry,
It essentially said that you couldn't bounce radar off the sun. Maybe it was.
Well, I mean, actually, I have the paper. I have the paper from that measurement. I had to put up, but I don't know if that would suffice. But yeah, I have the paper from when they did that. When they measured the.
Something he said is real interesting though. He said there's no strict definition of a black body. So now that being said, so how can you? There's a lot of fudge factor. So if it doesn't match the prediction, you can change it.
No, it just means that a black body isn't strictly describing something that is going to absorb all wavelengths. It just has to.
Concession from biodual then?
What? Say again?
I said, can we get a concession from biodual that the sun is not a perfect black body? Can we get an example?
He never said it was.
Yeah, Rob, when did I say that?
He said it is not a He said it is not a perfect black body, so it's somehow invalid.
Man.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of a perfect black body?
No, I can't. No, I can't, Rob. I don't think you can either.
Then how do you know the sun is not a perfect black body?
Because we can bounce signals off of it.
How do you know you can bounce signals? How do you know you're bouncing a signal off of the sun?
Yeah, no, I'm finding the information. I've found a couple of articles that are talking about bouncing them, but I'm trying to find something better with more information rather than just an article speaking of it.
Boyjul, did you ever try bouncing a signal off of the side of the sun? Let's say to the right-hand side of it.
Also, if the source of your information also gives us a picture of Pluto on Pluto, I'm going to question it.
Hey, while you're at it, BioDual, can you provide me any information for the scientific evidence for how light refracts in determining inferior mirage and superior mirage?
Tell you what, while you guys are sucking my dick, can someone make a note or a list of everything that I need to look up in the next 5 seconds? I'm gonna disappoint everyone. I'm not gonna be able to do it in 5 seconds.
Well, you don't have to look anything up. I was just, looking for some actual evidence. That okay, all right.
Yeah, I appreciate that one. That one's a legitimate one of validating a claim of being able to use this technology.
Yeah, that's all I'm
It's
asking
completely
for.
valid, and that's what I'm looking up right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking for. Validation of a claim.
What about my question, Boy Jewel, where I asked you how do you determine what spectrums that the sun is absorbing and not absorbing? Because you were claiming stuff to do with the sun and black bodies. So, like, that's a very valid question considering you were claiming stuff.
How would
No,
I?
how do you? You're making the claim. Not how would I? Not how would I? Not me. You.
A number of. I would have a number of pieces of equipment that would transmit at different wavelengths, and then I would see if I got a return. Because if I don't have a return, I would make the safe assumption based on the evidence that it absorbed that wavelength and didn't bounce.
And have you done this?
If I got a return, then I would make the safe assumption
based
on the evidence that it's reflecting that wavelength.
And you've done
I
this.
would build a table of what reflects and what is absorbed.
Right. Okay. And you've done this, so you know someone who has.
Here we go, man.
So you don't have anything then, is what you're saying?
I'm doing a particular thing right now.
Not a horse crap.
I'm doing a particular thing right now for a legitimate question.
But you were doing a particular thing when you were speaking to me, and you decided
if you
don't want
me to get this information, keep bringing me up.
No, I didn't ask you to go get any information. I was asking you questions, and you decided you didn't want to deal with them.
Please, Bio. I would like you to get that information.
Let's let him look for the information. We can change the subject while he's doing that. What's up, Brian? I've seen a lot of videos coming out from you lately. What are you researching these days?
Thanks. Yeah. Oh, everything and anything. Everything and anything. It's good to be on, actually, with you. Haven't been on for a while.
Yeah, good to have you.
Yeah.
Are you looking into ether,
getting a lot
Brian?
of flack.
You're looking into ether, Brian.
Pete.
I know the rest of the Oakley crew hate the mere mention of the word ether. I'll post a video.
But it's not to do with the Oakley crew. It's got to do with me. I don't have any. You show me evidence for it.
I will show you.
I'll
Show you loads of evidence, but you can't go looking for evidence. Like a baller, you say, "Show me evidence, bring it to me." You can't look.
What you want me to say? Like, I mean, that's my problem with it. It's like I don't have a problem whether ether exists or doesn't exist, Pete. If ether exists, great, but I need something concrete to prove it.
You do. So what about Martin? What about Martin Leakey, Nathan Oakley's great friend, who specializes in, you might say, ether? Have you looked at any of the stuff he has to present?
But why are you bringing Nathan into it? Like,
because you're all part of
my
the same
opinion.
crew. Every one of you on that
panel. I have my own opinions on stuff.
Ask me a question. When the word ether comes up, you all sing from the exact same hymn sheet, and the whole conversation is shot dead immediately.
Pete, you could go on that panel too.
Pete,
I was on there. I got shut down, of course. That's all.
That was years ago, Pete. You're still holding a grudge over that?
Sorry.
I posted a video about ether in the chat here, Brian. You might peruse it, or you might give some consideration, because after all, this is about what actually is. And remember, the people who fed us the fucking lies know exactly what isn't, which is the lies that they fed us. So there's an onus on us to follow the truth, to all extents. Possible, anyway.
I have no issue if ether exists, it exists. I'm not going to deny something that exists. I just need evidence that it does. That's the way I am. That's the kind of person I am.
That's fair enough. You look for evidence yourself, but you know what? When I think about it, the whole of the Oakley crew anti-ether, and then you have Riley for years just sticking his feet in the ground, talking about all there is relative density. So it's all very peculiar, isn't it? That we have open minds on flat Earth, but then when it comes to such pivotal areas like ether, which is absolutely a reality, we have this sort of like baller attitude about things. I find it very.
Let me stop you. Riley did a scientific experiment proving relative density, disproving his null, proving his alternative. Okay, let me stop you.
I'm not talking about. Everyone knows that relative density is a thing, Brian. Come on. God's sake. Point is that he's stifling the what do you call it, whole area for consideration. I think hand in hand with the greater crew members all scoffing at the mere mention of the word ether, and Riley then with his scientific in inverted commas validation that all there is in inverted commas is relative density. I think there's a ploy in play. That's what I think.
I don't think he needs to answer for other people.
It's okay. To be honest. I've had this out with Brian before, and he had the same fucking exact answer back then. And he's an Irish.
Then why you're asking it again?
Are you suspicious of Brian? You think he's part of a?
Silent Zero, and you're.
You think he's an?
Nathan... Okay.
You think he's an actor, Pete? You think Brian's an actor?
Yes, I do. I think he's acting his part somewhat.
Okay.
Well, Pete,
I do think that you're an actor.
Well, let me tell you why. Because I'll tell you something. When Brian appeared on the scene, he appeared shortly after I was booted off. Hang on, Brian, not you. The other Brian.
I appeared on the scene in 2015.
May I say, guys?
Absolutely
Pete,
not. That is absolutely fucking
I was
ridiculous.
asked a question by Brandon, so let me answer. When I was kicked off Nathan Oakley's crew, suddenly Brian's logic appears on the scene. That's okay. You might say I'm better. I don't give a fuck. But Brian was saying that he was a silent man in the wings from 2015, and suddenly, no posts or anything like that, just playing it in the wings. Suddenly, he jumps on to Nathan Oakley's crew. I'm not saying Brian is stupid.
No, that's not. No, that's not correct.
A limited part, I think so.
Okay, so if you're going to speak about me like that, I'm going to clear it up. My name on YouTube is Mr. 22 Brian 22, and loads and loads of people on the ball side will remember that name. You can ask the people out there who are trolls, who are trolls or ballers, as I say now, who are trolling and that back then, who will remember Mr. 22 Brian 22. I changed my name, my YouTube name. I think it was 2017. Ranty actually advised me to change my name, and I did. I changed it to my YouTube name to Brian's Logic, and then it was 2017. Ranty added me to Nathan's. I was going into Nathan's on Discord, and I was going into Jose's on Discord. But from 2015 to 2017, I wasn't making videos and I wasn't out in forums, because I didn't even know how to get on. I couldn't even get on to Jose's. I didn't know how to do it. As far as joining up.
You were in the chat, though. You were in the YouTube chat like the rest of us.
I was just YouTube commenting. That's all I was doing for 2 years.
Oh, you never
That's
said
what
that,
I was doing.
Okay, well, if you
wasn't in the chat
now, you said before, as far as I understood it, that you didn't even comment. You were just in the wings, paying attention.
I commented on YouTube videos. That's what I did. I used to do a lot of commenting on YouTube videos. That's all I could do. I didn't even know how to join a show. So I remember trying to join Nathan's. Even when Ranty added me to the Skype list, I wasn't able to join Nathan's. Nathan got angry at me one day because I kept on ringing him on Skype. You know, I didn't even know I just didn't know what I was doing as far as joining things go. I didn't hang around in forums or Discord. I only have Discord because I have to have, because of shows like Brandon's. Other than that, I wouldn't have Discord. But I was just commenting on YouTube from 2015 to 2017. I made my first video, I think it was in 2017. And I had been commenting and Ranty got to know me through me commenting on his videos and commenting to him. That's how Ranty got to know me. So I'm not an actor. I'm not an actor. I do 100% believe in what I can prove. And I can prove to anyone that relative density is a thing. I can't prove ether is. That's the thing.
You haven't looked to try and prove it, though, man. You haven't looked at it.
Well,
it's not about
where do I observe it?
It's not. First of all, you look into information gathered regarding the ether. Then you look at the whole historical story as to how heliocentrism came about, ultimately, and general relativity, especially. The ether was killed, right? But that's not even the point. No one has to prove anything.
I didn't deny the ether.
This is your own search. Are you happy years on end just having the same arguments with the same people, and that's it?
No, I'm not having the same arguments with the same people at all, Pete. I'm constantly moving forward. There's a lot of things I was doing 2 years ago I don't even do now.
But we're all doing the same thing, man. We're doing the same fucking arguments. Look how many people are in the chat here tonight. And 90% of them are ballers. And it's the same arguments, like Nathan's show. I can't even listen to it anymore because it's just the same fucking thing every day. I'm not saying that the flat earth isn't so. We know it is. But there's more to the story. That's all I'm saying.
Finding that out bit by bit, Pete. I mean, it's like, I think I've said this to you before. We can't just wake up tomorrow and suddenly experience and find everything out. It's a process of finding stuff out.
Yeah, but we can get held. We can get held in the same spot for years without any progress being made. And that's what I say this whole arena is about. Anyway,
let me say something about that. You think about what Chronic came in here and said, and how he's got little tidbits of information and story for every single thing. They've got volumes and volumes of books on the little lights in the sky. It's like, Lord of the Rings. For every character, there's like a trilogy that some fan has made out there, right? That's the same thing we're dealing with. It's like this elaborate story that they've written over hundreds and hundreds of years. And they've tied it to things in the real world, so it's very convincing. But we're not going to be able to sift through all that and figure out, the entire plot in 5 years.
I'm not saying that, Brandon, but in the meantime, you can go looking into areas which are otherwise sort of neglected. And I think this is probably about the individual more than anything else. If you think about what's happened since this whole arena is set up, all of the I'm not saying, look, the characters that I can see in here, Leo, Tony, the rest of them, they're all there since the very start, saying exactly the same thing. So the more that you engage with them, talking about exactly the same things and getting nowhere, that's not going to help you along the path.
Just
And let me
like
just
you
say
do,
this as well.
Pete.
I hold that the lie is built on the truth. So we got to figure
But-
out, we got to decode the lie. and
Just
then
like you do,
apply it to the
Pete. I
truth.
even think you are the bad one here sometimes.
Why is that Silent
you
Zero?
think
Because
he's an
you're a
agent,
member of
Silent
Nathan
Zero?
Oakley's panel as well.
Because sometimes you just destroy the how you say the conversations, Pete. I don't know why
Is
you
that
do
right?
that. Yes.
How did I do that tonight?
Not tonight. I say sometimes. I'm not.
He was the
Yeah.
actual actor.
Maybe I am. Maybe I am.
Oh, I got a
Yeah,
question.
tell me what I won't
why,
talk
why
about,
do you
though.
keep bringing up Nathan? Everybody keeps bringing up Nathan and Keely. You do understand that other people can think for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then why do you keep
Exactly.
bringing up Nathan?
I brought him up because there's two people who are regulars on his panel, right?
So what? There's still
And-
people who think logically.
Listen, this is all about ultimately, or you can see it about divide and conquer in a sense. There's the flat earth, ball earth side, and then within the flat earthers, you have these divides, right? There are people coming down stringently on one particular side saying that ether is bollocks. Now, what's that about? What's that about? When,
Well,
there's information there for all of us to embrace, right? Or
Let
to
me
look
a-
into, and then talk
Let me back
about
you
it.
up. Let me back you up a little bit, Pete. Now, I've got no problem with Nathan or anybody on his panel, for that matter. Whatever they want to talk about, they talk about it. I think they do some good research. But I will say this: we should avoid trying to crystallize flat Earth as having to believe one certain thing, and the tendency to build these camps where if you don't believe in whatever that there's an ice wall, then you're not a flat earther, or you think gravity is a force but not how they describe it, or you don't think it's a force, then you're in this camp, and anybody who does is in a different camp, and they're all stupid. We should avoid doing that because it does politicize it. There's no reason this needs to be political. We can disagree. I'm not saying anybody's doing that, by the way, just in case. I don't want anybody to misinterpret that. I'm not accusing anybody of doing that. I'm just saying generally that's how I think we should be.
Well, Brian, I heard Brian clearly say that he's not disavowing the ether. It's just that he before he believes in something and will support it, he needs the evidence. He needs to know that it's real. And
Go
that's
looking
what
for
a lot of
evidence
us
and you'll
are.
find it. How many times have I mentioned to people about the repeating cloud patterns in your local sky? You think they don't apply to your sky, Brian? You're going to explain that. You're going to explain that and 100 other things. But that's not the point anymore. You don't need anyone to bring evidence to you. You could need to bring evidence to yourself.
How could cloud patterns prove ether?
It's evidence, I said, and I said repeating cloud patterns. Repeating, first of all, that there's a repeating pattern, and that there's a pattern there in play in the first place. Something has to cause it, right?
Wait, so you're saying that there's actual repeating clouds?
Yes,
Here, it's
I
on
am.
screen. It's on my screen right now. I think kind of typically, here's an example of the pattern. Look at these clouds and how they move in waves. There does seem to be some kind of energy pattern. Like if you look at the ocean from 500 feet up, it's got that weird pattern. I'm sure there's an explanation for it, but it does seem like we're getting bombarded with some kind of energy that's in a pattern.
Everything's
Are you guys chilling for Robert Simmons?
That's what I was talking about, Brandon. If I say, well, I think that the ether has a pattern, a wave-like pattern, and then you see this, right? I can show this as evidence, and then I can show you water moving behaving in the same manner, and I can say that's another evidence. It doesn't mean because I'm correlating those effects to something that that something exists. It's the same that they do with the space, bending of space time, all this stuff.
Yeah, we can't. I hate that correlation shit. Well, this correlate. That's what they do with, like you said, space time. They do that with their model of gravity. They do that with a lot of things, most everything. Polaris, angles to Polaris. They
Talking
do the
about
same
them
thing.
though. I'm talking about them who take us beyond the reach of what we can sort of ponder ourselves. We have to go with the imagination of others. I posted a picture in the chat. Please post that, and I know you might scoff and laugh at me. Please post that on the main channel, Brandon, if you will. And I will encourage everybody to go out and look, not particularly for this shape exactly, but something similar to that. Eventually, if you look hard enough, you will be able to find something exactly like that, and on a repeating basis. And I make this claim, not just in my sky here, Brian, in Limerick, your sky in Waterford, and pretty much in everyone's sky, earthwide, because there is a central emanating force, and it is expressing everywhere. That's what
Have
I
you
say.
seen?
But I'm not saying that's proof of anything. I'm not saying that's
Pete,
proof
have you
of anything.
seen the Skywatcher channel? What the fuck's that guy's name? It's like something 333, something like that. Anyway, there's this guy who does sky watching on YouTube. Huh? Sorry, say that again.
You're talking about Pro 777?
No. This is another guy. He's not a flat earther or anything. He's not even a conspiracy theorist, as far as I can tell. All he does is collect observations of strange sky phenomena and collates it and puts it on his channel. Now, a lot of his stuff, like, he picks up hoaxes and stuff too, but he has a lot of videos where there seems to be like triangle patterns in the clouds, like almost like there's a craft in the clouds outlined. So I definitely do think there's some weird shit going on with the sky, whether or not it's creating fucking what's this guy, Pooh Bears, on a consistent basis. I don't know.
Pyradili you have, but does that look like a bear to you, Brandon? You've Pyradili.
Yeah, somebody's tickling him. He's laughing.
Well, someone said this. You might think I'm a joker or whatever. In one of Ranty's chats before it was here, right? But someone laughed and scoffed at me at that. And the next time I heard from him, he said, "Pete, I have to apologize to you. I didn't know him from Adam." He said, "I scoffed at you, but I saw exactly what you were looking at in my local sky. I couldn't believe it." And he said he was in America somewhere. So this is just a basic level. I'm beyond my thinking about this stuff, right? All clouds form in circular patterns as well. Not quite full circles, they're wreath-like patterns, but they're repeating. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm making here is this is beyond sort of ball earth, flat earth. This is getting to reality. And we know that the lie is built on the truth. So they've taken the truth, contorted it, and fed us the lie. There's an onus on us, possibly as individuals, to untwist it, unfold it, and come to the truth. That's all I have to say. I don't.
Well, I think we'll all agree with that.
Yeah, I want to say something to Pete now. Pete, I have looked at the sky and I've seen the clouds, and I've seen them form patterns, to form things that look like things while I'm looking at it. I've seen that, but
hey, shout out to WTP 499. It says at Earth is life. It's working on my end. Yeah, what's up, Earth is life? What's going on, man?
Nathan.
Thank you, WTP.
So much. It's because it's based on, even though it's rigid and even though it might seem a bit harsh, it's based on what we can prove. I know this, obviously, Brandon this is very much the same, right? Brandon is interested in what he can prove, right? I can see patterns in the sky. I can see things forming that might look like anything in the sky. It could be even something I'm thinking about. Could be a face, could be a swan, could be anything, right? But I can't say why that's happening. It's outside the realms of physics. You're going into metaphysics or something at that point. I stick with the basic physics as much as I can. That I can show
reality, though.
Hang on. My point is, I can show and prove to anyone. We've been called, like flat earthers have been called crackpots and all this for years. And that's how character assassination is the number one attack against us. So what I like about Nathan's is that anyone that goes in there has to be able to prove their claims, or else just concede that it's just speculation. And that's fine. But if they're making a claim, they have to prove it. And there's no claim, and that includes me. If I go in there and make a claim, I have to prove it, or else I'll have to just accept that it's just speculation and concede that it's speculation. So it might seem harsh and rigid sometimes, but it's giving anyone who listens to it will get the impression, hang on, flat earthers aren't a load of crackpots with tinfoil hats on their head. They are actually very rigid about what they can prove and can't prove. You know?
Hey, Brian, man, the clouds are bears and the ether's real, man. The clouds are bears, the ether's real.
Yeah, I can't prove that to anyone, isn't it? I can't prove that.
Everybody should expect evidence or proof. I mean, why should we just believe something?
I agree with that.
Asking anyone to believe anything, but who are you trying to prove something to? All the same characters and contributors. I understand the role that Nathan plays in everything. Of course, the vast majority of people go along with what science tells us. And
shout out to PJ, £2. Super chat working on my end too. We flat. Thank you, PJ. Appreciate that. I like this little thing going on here. Yeah, let's prove him wrong.
But as far as 100% proof, maybe we can't prove it, but I believe there's an ether.
I totally agree with the philosophy of holding people to what they say and getting them to provide evidence. I don't mind speculation either, though, because I hear a lot of stuff. People come in here and say stuff I disagree with all the time. And it's not always clear that they're speculating. So I imagine sometimes the audience is listening going, oh, flat earthers believe this. Like we hear ballers say that all the time. Like Kosho did the other day. Flat earthers don't believe in gravity. Characterizing what we believe like that. Or flat earthers think that there's a dome. Well, I don't particularly think there's a dome because I haven't found any evidence for a physical dome. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're just having a conversation and trying to figure stuff out for ourselves.
Well, Brandon, imagine you went out tonight now, or whatever time it is there, so it's evening time, and you saw a big fuck ass cloud, and you said, hang on, that looks fucking exactly like what Pete posted earlier on. What would be the next step there?
Well, that would be a very odd coincidence that I'd probably note that in my mind and say, well, that's pretty fucking weird. Take a picture of it and look for more patterns. That's probably what I would do.
And if you found it then the next night and the next night and a continuous basis, what then?
Well, then I would probably say something and I would start taking pictures of the clouds all the time and try to prove that there is a pattern.
Well, I'm telling you, you'll find that. But here's another thing I thought of before. I'm a shit. I don't do any videos like that, or I should do a lot more stuff. But anyway, here's a great resource for us: Google Earth. Google Earth. So I bet
Brandon.
yeah, let me just say this, Brian. Google Earth. So all the street view images where you have all the clouds over the years, over many different locations, would definitely be a good tool there to use. Anyway, go on, Brian.
Okay, Brandon, did you say there's no proof for the dome or no evidence? I would argue there's plenty of evidence. We got to ask ourselves, what would we expect to see if there was a barrier? We would expect to see maybe some phenomenon for things flying high. And you could see when some of these rockets go up, you could see the spray like changing and illuminating and looking like they're bouncing off something. We would expect to see like a barrier if we lit off bombs up in the upper atmosphere. And that's exactly what we see. Bomb, instead of forming a typical mushroom, the ceiling seems to stop and it starts spreading out wide. With upper atmospheric lightning, we'd expect to see a barrier. And with these sprites, we see a barrier where they seem to abruptly stop projecting these sprites. So I would say there is evidence of a dome, maybe not 100% proof, but there's all kinds of evidence for a barrier up there.
Yeah, you know what, Brian, I agree with you that is, I would consider those things evidence.
But what if those things
it's just an open question for me. I'm just not convinced that there's what the barrier is or where it is. There are lots of arguments and they're good arguments. I don't concern myself too much with what's in the sky, to be honest with you, because it's so hard to actually go and prove it. But
fair enough. let's go down. Look,
Brian
I
said
put out a
was as
video on my
what
Brian
Brian
Leak
said
channel. One more thing.
what Brian
I put a
says as
video
evidence.
out.
If their
Hold on, one more thing,
explanation is
y'all.
beyond that, then how are those still considered evidence for a dome?
Shut up, Sean. Brian Leakey, go on ahead. That's only Sean G.
Yeah, one more thing, man. There's the evidence for a barrier down below. Like that guy, I put out a video on my Brian Leak channel, where the guy at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico in one of them badass subs hit that region where it's some type of, he called it an underwater lake. He's got video of it. It's not just a fucking speculation. They try to dive down. Hold on, they try to dive down in it, and this submarine is literally bouncing off of this underwater looking lake. And then the Cola super deep borehole, they went a little bit, I mean, they went close to 7 miles, and it wasn't from lack of trying that they didn't go deeper. They literally could not go any fucking deeper. They hit a type of sludge that they could not penetrate. It wasn't solid, it wasn't liquid. They described it as sludge.
Barrier. No, it was a barrier rock that melted the bits. It was not a sludge. Bring it up because I also know about that.
You're gonna believe Sean G.
Only goes so deep because the hardest rock that they're using to be able to penetrate is diamond, and there's nothing harder. And the reason they couldn't go any further than that is because repeatedly the bits would melt. That was the reason they couldn't go further than that.
That's wrong. They got the temperature wrong the whole way down, bud. If the temperature was so hot, how could there be fucking rock?
What do you mean if the temperature was so high? That's exactly what made the temperature so hot to the bits.
You don't think they're diamond blades? Hold on. You don't think their diamond tip drill bit could go through fucking hot rock, pal?
No, it wasn't hot. Okay. Obviously, you should know when they use these drills, there's friction and there's a lot of heat involved. But the heat got so hot in that rock bed that it wasn't able to penetrate it. It was melting the diamond bits. You can say that it's not impossible, but that's exactly why they weren't able to go any deeper. It explicitly says that's why.
How it works. They
Hold on.
down the bit. So
Okay,
guys, let me read.
Would you like me to bring up the article that?
Yeah,
that
you don't think they're
exactly
using
what-
coolant for the bits? You don't think they're using coolant?
Let me read what it says, and then we can hopefully put this to rest because both of you guys have a little piece of it. It sounds like, at least according to what I see here in Wikipedia, which is sourced. It says because of higher than expected temperatures at this depth and location was 356 Fahrenheit, 180 Celsius. Drilling deeper was deemed unfeasible. The unexpected decrease in density, the greater porosity, and the unexpectedly high temperatures caused the rock to behave somewhat like plastic, making drilling nearly impossible.
Like a syrup. Care to recant and take a mulligan there, Sean G?
Yeah, like a sludge.
exactly what the situation was.
Yeah, it's not the bit getting too
Let me
hot.
see a line check the shit.
Brian was correct there, yeah. More than Sean G, the asshole.
It wasn't because
Well, I think
of the
you guys
pudding.
both-
It was because of the bits.
It sounded like both were the reason.
The texture.
He made it sound like the barrier was temperature, and 350 degrees is no barrier.
No, I said what was caused by it. I didn't say that ground, the area of that ground was that temperature.
You said the diamond bit was melting because of the friction, sir.
Yeah,
that's wrong.
what creates heat. And Ray Bryan keeps
Yeah, but
making
that's
things,
not why they stopped drilling.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. You thought I was saying that the ground was that temperature, right? Is that what you thought I said?
No, you were
He
saying
just
the
missed to
bit
say the
got
part,
too
guy.
hot.
Bro. He just missed to say the part. Yeah, it was melting because the material that it was rubbing against, it was hot, and it was all these descriptions. That's it.
What temperature does something have to be to melt? What temperature does it have to be to melt the diamond, Sean G?
I'd have to
way hotter than that. And let me say this. Yeah. So it's like material down there a submarine might also bounce off of. I'm just saying there's a barrier down there as much as there is above. That's my whole
there definitely seems to be natural barriers that we're not meant to go on. Up, obviously there's no oxygen, right? It's cold, whatever the hell else is up. Out is cold as fuck. You've got Antarctica, right? Just fucking death in that direction. And down is fucking impossible, like in this borehole thing. Definitely seems like we were meant to be contained in this one area. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of barrier up there.
Yeah, but they've always said that. Always since the beginning, since we were in caves, there's some barrier. There's always going to be some people who try to go further and try to go down deeper. I bet you there's going to be people who try to go down deep in the earth. Eventually, they find a way to do that. 10 miles, 20 miles. I don't know why they'd want to do that, but
Coach O, there's always going to be people, Coach O, who try to maintain the narrative at all fucking costs. And there's always going to be useful idiots to back them up.
And that's one of the reasons why I think that they might be lying about what the Earth is if we know that there's somewhere out there, there's somewhere else we can go, we're always going to fucking try to talk about it. If it's unknown, if there's some other place, if there's more land outside of this little area, or there's some weird shit out there, some fucking aliens waiting to harvest us, that's all we'll be talking about. All we'll be doing is trying to figure out how to fucking escape or get out of here, or talking about when are the aliens going to come fucking eat us or whatever.
Yeah, but since the beginning, or since the history I know of, that's never been a limiter, meaning that there's always been somebody or some people who always go a little bit further, and we've always just gone further and further and further and higher. And
like to the moon,
to the
like
bottom
to
of the
Mars,
ocean,
you've gone to the sun next.
Sky,
oh,
at the North Pole, South Pole, all this stuff.
That doesn't mean we can go further. What if we can't? What if we just fucking can't, Kosho?
You'd invent it, Brandon, right?
I'm saying so far
for the people and say we can go to the moon.
I'm saying so far we've continued to go further and further, so it's possible that we're going to just keep continuing to go further and further.
We're going to try.
Bullshit. Look, we need to put everybody's minds to it, not just the motherfuckers at fucking in high places. If we put everybody's mind to it, we might find ways around this shit or through this shit. But we don't even get a fucking say in it because they got us fucking in some goddamn in a ball where we fucking see our own ass through a telescope. It's horse shit.
And you're round and round in circles. That's where they have you going. Let me just say, Brian Leakey, I hold, Brian, that the tree is intact the other side. So 8 miles down, you come out the other side, or close enough anyway. And the tree is intact. We live on the stump of the tree this side, which is cut. It's my view. Look into it.
Diamonds melt at 700 Celsius, 1300 Fahrenheit. FYI.
I'm about to take off, but Brandon, did you get my tags?
Was it a DM? Let me look.
Not DM. It was in a general chat. Tagged you twice.
No, I missed it.
All right. I'll just DM it. It was the validation for my claim. Blah 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 for your question.
Okay. All right. Cool. I did see some other stuff actually. Earth is Life posted some stuff. I haven't had a chance to go through it about the sun radar crap. I guess what's his name has a page on it. What the hell's his name? The one you debated, Brian.
Yeah, Mr. Sensible.
Hey, can I just say something real quick? I love it when the proclaimed intellectuals use terms like blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's a good point. But you know what? When they talk about the Antarctic Treaty, I didn't get a chance to speak up when they were talking about the Antarctic Treaty and all this. And when you look into that thing, yeah, okay, well, they could go. We might have to, if we go legally, we got to go through a lot of yellow tape if we're allowed to go. But we're not allowed to bring extra fuel. They got to scoop up their own shit. But look, I just was studying it. There are nuclear reactors at the Antarctic stations and the Arctic. In the Arctic, there are actual nuclear stations. Yeah.
Really?
What? Yeah, they're little small nuclear power plants. Little mini nuclear power plants at the north and the south.
Where at?
The north, the Arctic and the Antarctic by the research stations. They all have small mini nuclear power plants.
How small are they? Do you know?
I don't fucking know.
Isn't that what powers submarines too? I mean, why is that so surprising?
It says there is. It's called the PM3A nuclear reactor, and it's what powers basically the little cities that they have out there for the scientists. It's how they constantly have power.
Why the fuck aren't we doing that for cities?
Wait.
I'll put the link in the chat right now.
Is it dangerous or
nuclear-
what? Because we got these subs that are powered
It's very
by it.
small.
So they got a nuclear thing in a place where we cannot even take a shit.
Yeah, but they also
Well, I
it says
mean,
they ship the waste out of Antarctica. That's the problem with nuclear.
Yeah,
the waste they have nowhere to store the waste, and as long as they ship the waste out, it's not being stored there.
What if
That's
it
the only
melts down?
byproduct that we can issue.
you
What if it
believe
melts
that?
down? What if it melts
If you
down?
believe
Isn't
they
that a
ship
risk?
waste out of there,
Then there's a huge risk. Absolutely.
There's no such thing as waste, nuclear waste.
Huh?
Yeah,
Yes,
I don't buy it
yes,
either.
there
To be
is.
honest, I don't
Wait,
buy it.
there's no. Well, you should go talk to the nuclear plants on land that are having that issue, because they're talking about where they're going to store the waste. They want to store them in mountains, and some
no,
want to
dude,
store it on the
everybody
front
go watch
themselves.
Galen Windsor. That the waste, what they're calling waste, is it can also make energy, and it's worth multi-millions of dollars.
bombs.
Instead, the elites and correlation with the government has scared everybody into making, instead of making multi-millions of dollars off this quote-unquote waste, they're fucking spending billions to bury it. This shit is not fucking waste. It's very useful. It's not dangerous.
You're right. The problem is that to do that, we would still need a place to store it. And yeah, you're 100% right. They're trying to make money off just storing it rather than using it in the situations they can. But there's just not enough use for it to not
Yes,
need
bro,
a place
the
to
thing with
store
them
it.
wearing suits and all this shit is horse shit. The leaders, the inventors of these power plants, they never wore these suits, all this horse shit regulations.
No, they do.
swam
They
in
do.
the fucking cooler tower and the cooler
No,
pools.
that's not true. I've worked on a nuclear plant. That's not how it works. There's a certain
Dude, you are
distance.
such
but
a
with
fucking
anything,
lying
Hold on.
sack of shit, dude.
Edson-
Brian, maybe he
Edson-
doesn't know what you're
Edson
talking
nuclear-
about. Hold on. You've
And I
seen
can show
Galen
you
Windsor
pictures
stuff.
of me working
Have
there.
you, Sean? You've seen Galen Windsor talks, haven't
Yes.
you?
Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
think about that?
It kind of goes both ways. I know he's doing it for sure, but the way it was explained to me how he's doing it is the amount he's doing it with it. So if he takes a certain amount, I don't know the exact amount, over time, your body expels it. It's not enough to really do any damage, and that's kind of how he was able to keep doing it. But in relations to exactly how he does it and the amount he did, I have no clue.
Dude,
but I
just
know for
because you
sure
were
he
a
was
janitor
doing
at a
it.
fucking
He was
power
definitely
plant
doing it.
or a fucking,
I was
just
going to
because
ask
you were a
him what he
lawn
did at
boy,
the power plant.
just because you
No,
was mowing
actually,
the
I
fucking lawn
wasn't.
outside
I
the
wasn't a
nuclear power
janitor.
plant,
I
it's
wasn't
not-
a janitor
no.
at all. We actually,
No,
what
you're
we
a
were
lawn
doing
boy.
was,
Because you were mowing the fucking lawn
would you
out
like
there.
to? You want to show some
Does not
pictures?
mean you know anything about the process, bro.
What did you do?
Okay.
What did you do, Sean, at the power plant?
We demoed the first silos that go around, so it's in 3 sections. So it's three concrete barriers that encompass the nuclear reactor, and we demoed out the first 2 layers. And I
You
was
were a
there for
laborer.
8.5 months.
We're
No, I
a
was an
laborer.
operator. It was
You
actually
destroyed
me and my father's company that did it. So no, I wasn't a laborer. Sorry.
What do you
Yo,
mean?
isn't it true?
You destroyed the cooling
Isn't
tower.
it true that you could be it's safer in the pool of one of those nuclear reactors on the surface, just like floating at the top?
I don't know
And
about
there's less
that.
radiation up there.
I don't know about that, but I
There's
know
less
that
radiation up there than there is outside from the sun. I haven't said it.
you can be, the way they had it set up is that you couldn't be within 50 feet of the first barrier silo between that and the reactor itself without wearing a suit and being scanned every like 20 minutes to see if you've gotten any radiation.
Bro, this guy's just throwing out bullshit. I've listened to him on every
No, no.
subject. This motherfucker's an expert on every subject.
Hey, would you like me to show
Sean,
you?
Sean, you're a fucking expert surveyor.
Would you like me to share proof that I was there? Would you like me to
Sean,
show
you're a
proof?
fucking
I can
expert
show you.
in surveying. You're a fucking
can show
expert
you.
in fucking nuclear fucking
Did I say I
power
was?
plant.
Did I
Dude,
say
you
I
are
was?
nothing, bro.
No.
You are fucking
That's
nothing.
You're saying that, but I never said I was an expert at it. I just told
Your
you a time
daddy,
where I
your
was
daddy
working
has
on
a
it.
company, bro. Your daddy
Yeah,
has a
and I was,
company.
and I was
You're
every
a
month
fucking
in part of that
old rotten
company for
sack of shit,
25
dude.
years. And I was
Bring
in
your
part of that
life
company for
somewhere else,
25
bro.
years.
Come on, Brian. Yeah,
Because
Brian.
he's an
Let's.
expert every fucking subject we talk about, man.
That sucks, right? I'm sorry that I know something about something. My bad. Should I not say anything? What the hell, bro?
He was just on Bev saying he's a fucking surveyor.
All
I
right,
said I
all right.
did surveying.
Hang on.
See, again,
Sean,
you
what
guys want
brought
to
you to flat
conflate these
Earth?
things, and I'm very open about everything I've done. You can make it
Sean,
seem like
you're
I've said
very
I have
open
higher
about leaving flat Earth
authority to
as well,
something than I
Sean. Hang
am,
on, Sean.
but I've never
You're
have.
very open about leaving
I'm not
flat
worried
Earth,
about
Sean.
that.
What brought you to flat Earth to begin with? What was
Why
the
are
most
you asking me this
persuasive
again,
argument that
Pete?
flat
I'm
Earth
not
had
interested
to
in
take you
talking to
away
you.
from spinning
We had this
balls?
conversation yesterday already.
Answer the panel here. You let all flat earthers down by moving.
The panel didn't ask me that for nothing.
Guys,
not one.
can we
not
talk
one
about
person asked
this?
me that.
Can we talk about this subject? Let's stick to this subject because
Yeah,
I
thank
am
you.
curious about
Yes, please.
this whole nuclear thing. You know what is interesting to me? They always talk about the nuclear winter and the fallout. I don't know very much about this subject, just so you know. We dropped those bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Have you seen how good those fucking cities look now? I mean,
Yeah,
people
they're
went and
damn
lived in
now,
there
Brandon.
directly after those
3
bombs were
days later,
dropped.
they were back to normal life. 3 days.
Brandon, their tram was up and running the next week in Hiroshima. The train was up and running the next week.
Yeah,
that's very possible. Because the biggest difference between a nuclear bomb, which you know how many tons of uranium they use, and a nuclear power plant is an enormous amount of difference. And that's part number one. And part number two is a nuclear bomb, like the radioactivity that happened from let's say what's that one, Chernobyl, that seeped into the water and into the soil and into the air, into everything. Whereas a bomb, when it gets set off, the things that it's gonna radiate is just basically the air.
You don't know this, bro.
Hold on, Brian.
You're going off
There's
what
people living there, Kosho. There's
Hold on.
people living in that place.
Hold on. Yeah, have you seen that place around Chernobyl, Kosho? Because it's
there are people in
there's
Chernobyl
all
who never
kinds
even
of
left.
wildlife in there just thriving, man.
Yeah, but some of those
There's more
wildlife
wildlife there
are
now than there
a
was
little messed
before.
up.
We don't
there.
know that. No,
Wolf
don't
have made it.
accept
Wait, Wolf have made a comeback in Chernobyl. There are people who never fucking left. Kosho's going off what he was told,
they have higher
and
rates,
even though
they
the
have
evidence
higher
is
rates
pointing,
of
even though the
cancer.
evidence is pointing elsewhere.
No, I have a
there's
friend
definitely
from
people.
Poland.
There
Let
are
me ask you
definitely
this,
people
though.
that live around it. Absolutely, and they
Yeah.
they do, like, I think Vice did a really good story on it where they went in with those Geiger counters and they showed like in pockets where it was really bad, and some of where those people are, it actually it's a pretty high number. But they also know that they're deformed animals. There
Sean
have actually
G,
been
Galen
people
Windsor.
that,
You said you knew about Galen Windsor, Sean. He took
yeah.
a Geiger counter and put it to the fucking plutonium in his hand and ate it. He did it on
No,
tour
yeah.
throughout the United
No,
States,
yeah.
and he
I
lived
said
to
I
be
know
almost
that.
80 years old, bro.
I know that. I know. I said yes. I know who he is. I know what he did. I just said I don't know the
So
amounts that he
don't bring
took.
up
or anything.
Geiger counters as something dangerous, bro. He
I
demonstrated
didn't. What are
us
you
a.
talking
Hold
about?
on.
Wait,
Hold on. Let me
I
fucking
did?
finish, man. Hold
Did
on,
I?
Sean.
How did I
Hold
bring him
on,
up to be
Sean.
dangerous?
Hold
How
on,
did I
Sean.
bring him up
He
to be
got
dangerous?
listen. Us people who don't know, us people who've never worked at power plants, he gave us a demonstration of how this stuff that would bring in the FBI or whatever and close off a half square mile radius. Okay, he's eating it to demonstrate to us that it's
Not that
not
amount.
dangerous.
Not the same amount.
Listen, he's demonstrating to us normal people who don't know that this shit is not dangerous, bro. He's
But
fucking eating it. To prove that it's not dangerous,
Yeah,
he's
no,
fucking
you're right.
eating it.
Okay. But there's a difference between the amount he had in his hand than the amount that's at a power plant that they're trying to save people from. I agree. I 100% agree with you. I know you're right. You're right.
Sean G.
Okay, so you're telling me. Hang on. So you're telling me that the pinch that whatever amount he had in his hand is equal to the amount that's at a power plant.
You would not ingest, okay? He straight up ingested it, bro. Okay, you understand?
Okay, I'm
Ingested
asking you,
it directly.
is the same amount that he had in his hand the same amount as going to be at a power
Of
plant?
course not, and nobody's claiming that.
Okay, okay, and I never said anything about. I didn't say it was fake. Brandon, did I say that guy eating that stuff was fake?
No, but let me make a
didn't say it was
point.
fake.
No, you didn't. Let me make a point here. How brilliant would it be if the government had come up with a psychological operation to convince the enemy and the world that it had this super powerful fucking game-changing weapon? That
What
it's
was the
just
enemy who
holding
came
back.
up with
It can
the
drop
technology?
it anytime it wants. What enemy did?
Well, I'm saying like the people who discovered.
Germany did it. No,
I guess
Germany
it wasn't
did
technically
that.
the enemy, but it was in Europe.
Was there scientists?
No, they failed.
In Europe, Mary Curie, I think in France.
When they came to America, That's when they. That's how they
We're
built
talking
it.
about during World War
It was
II.
Einstein that came up with E equals MC
Yeah, I know, but
squared.
radiation was discovered long before that, and also
Radiation was discovered before that, but the
nuclear
weaponization. We're talking about the
Oh,
weaponization.
Those were scientists
You're talking
that
about the
came
nuclear
here,
bomb.
right?
The nuclear bomb, yeah, that was not developed by Germany. They had a program and they failed.
No. It was the scientists from Germany that came to America is what I thought it was.
No, because it happened before the end of the war, right?
Well, weren't there defective ones?
Well, maybe
I
there
thought
was
that's
some
what it was.
defectors. I don't know.
I thought there were defective scientists that came over and helped us with.
Maybe.
The story goes that Einstein figured out MC equals E equals MC squared, right? And he wrote a letter back home to Germany, to or Austria, all his fucking family, and said, "You guys better get out of there. America's has this new thing." You know, this is the story, how it goes. Okay, and it was before the end of the war.
Yeah,
Can I say
so
something about the whole nuclear power?
Well, just before this gets confused, nuclear bomb is not technology we're talking about. Nuclear fission and obtaining energy from it was achieved before the bomb was before they had set off the bomb. So the technology for nuclear energy wasn't isolated to just the United States. I think it was founded. Let me see. I think it was Enrique Fermi. Yeah, it was in the.
Yeah, no,
30s.
that's fine. That's fine. I was talking specifically about the bomb. I kind of changed the subject to.
Oh, the bomb. Okay, I
weapons,
got you.
but, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like the
I
Manhattan
wanted to say
Project.
something about the energy. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just you asked earlier, why don't we have these all over the place? It's because nuclear energy is really cheap and really safe, and they can't have that because the ruling people, they make too much money with oil and coal and all the other natural resources. So if they have to demonize this cheap, safe energy so they can keep getting rich. That's basically what it comes down to.
And
That would fit the fact pattern. Yeah, that would fit it. That would fit how I know the world and the people who run it.
Couldn't they scale? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
You know, nuclear energy is all over the place.
Use it for like motors, like cars and everything else, like just different versions for different amounts that you need to produce for, for that reaction that you need. I can do this willy-nilly.
If they would just, if they didn't demonize it, if they would just use it as they can, there would never be a coal fire plant. There would never be. There would be no use for hydroelectric or whatever. So I mean, nuclear power would be good enough for the whole world for all source of power.
What about the tide? The tide of the ocean creates a pull or a push that would create a vacuum, right? If you couldn't get a vacuum,
utilize that.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
They utilize tides for energy, and they certainly utilize nuclear energy. It's one of the biggest power sources in the world. I think it says 10% of the world's energy comes from nuclear energy.
You're talking about it wrong. For a vacuum or a pump?
What do you mean? No, I just say they have turbines underneath the water.
Let's go back to the bomb, though, because Sean was.
That's backwards. I'm talking about for a pump or a vacuum. For the thing to create a suction that has so much of a vacuum, so much of a pull that you can get whatever, like you get the whole ocean amount. Like you can't like replicate that, can you?
Well, I wasn't talking about that. I was just talking about energy. You know,
That's what I'm talking about.
But
that's what the ocean's there for: the ocean, the wind, the sun, everything.
Okay, let me rephrase it. Maybe I said it wrong. I didn't mean to say. Okay, hold on. Let's just rephrase it. I thought I said there would be no need for any other power plants or anything. Not that they wouldn't do it. It's just that the nuclear energy would be enough where there wouldn't be need for any other source. Does that clarify that?
Yeah, I think it's possibly it's not efficient enough and it's too dangerous. Because there's a lot of places that don't like it. They don't like nuclear reactors in their general town or their area.
Yeah, because it's demonized. That's why. If they knew the truth of how safe it really is, nobody would care.
Well, yeah, and you could also,
I mean,
you also don't have to use uranium per se in a reactor. You can use thorium, a whole bunch of other.
And those are dangerous too.
Isotopes.
Yeah, but if you have it in a place like that has earthquakes, like
Thorium's not
California,
dangerous. Kidding me?
yeah, it's not as radioactive, but yeah, it is still radioactive.
It's not dangerous. Go ahead.
Pot. Marijuana.
Hey, speaking of power plants, does anybody live by a coal plant, or have you ever been near an active working coal plant in the recent past? Has anybody even seen one operating?
Good point. I haven't.
Usually in West Virginia.
The mining operations are not actual.
Yeah, because I was looking in Detroit. There's supposed to be a couple of them, and I haven't been able to see one operating.
Interesting point, Brandon. Very good.
Yeah, because I was interested in this a while back, and I was looking at the plants in around my city, and then I was following the power lines from like my house back to where they came from, because I was suspicious that there's something else going on with the whole power grid system.
Liquid coal. It's gas. It's oil. It's all the way.
Yeah, like they're not even using coal. Like they already have this technology. It's already in place, but they don't tell us where it is because it's a national security concern. If we get into war and get bombed, like
musical cord wrapped around your city and strummed by the wind or whatever.
What would they be using the coal for?
Hold on a second. The ground can go right back and never have to ever be into any ground. Your third plug right there that's ground supposedly is ground. What the fuck does that even mean, really? If I was the person that designed it, I'd put it right back in the system and everybody would all go right back.
Full circuit.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just something I was curious about and looked at. I don't know anything about the power grid, but I did follow these power lines, and there's these substations, and they're really weird, man. The whole thing is very strange to me. I didn't look into it any more than that, but I could see them putting in place some kind of power system and wanting to keep it off the maps in case in the future there was some kind of bomb, or to avoid people being able to sabotage it, destroy it, as potential sensitive targets. And the technology might be being used in the defense industry, where they don't want to advertise that they've got this new, power technology for war purposes.
Well, what would they be doing with all the coal then? Because here in Colorado, in Wyoming, I see coal trains. I mean,
it's oil.
No, it's coal. I see it.
Yeah, they turn it to oil. Oh, you see coal, goofy.
I don't know. Maybe they ship it overseas. I don't know.
Where are those trains going?
And they're turning it to gas, man. Kerosene, gas.
I don't. It's just a crazy conspiracy theory that I came up with. It's probably not true. It's just something to think about.
No, it is true, because all things you burn turn to a black char and have energy, and can be turned to another liquid or mixed or refined to an oil or gasoline. Different stages of the same shit. Huh?
Coal can be turned into oil?
Yeah, why not?
I believe so.
Everything, everything. Listen, hold on. Corn is turned into oil. Corn is turned into gas. Everything green in your front yard is gasoline. Always has been. Everything you put in your pipe and smoke is gasoline. Always has been.
I have a better idea where those big rail train, full of coals, are going. It's probably Texas for all the goddamn barbecues, baby.
Didn't Fight Club say something about your front yard being oil or some shit?
Everything green in your front yard is gasoline.
Yeah, actually, Henry Ford has a very good quote about alcohol, which is anything that can ferment, right? You can, whether it's a fruit, corn, grass, whatever it is, anything that can ferment will create alcohol and also certain gases. And that is, it's basically cheap and free, but the petroleum interests at that time shut him down.
You can break it down into the resin. You don't even have to make the alcohol out of it.
That's right.
When you burn it, you get a resin.
It happens.
They do have ethanol
It's a natural
engines.
process.
Can
Yeah,
I
it's a
finish my
natural
sentence
process.
before you take my ideas and shit that I'm saying? Listen, that I was already saying, everything you break down and burn in like a tube or burn it, it turns black, and it has an amount of resin, oil, or char. You can do different things with different amounts.
Exactly.
Hey, listen to this, D-Muck. As a result, some have suggested that for energy security, transforming coal into a liquid fuel alternative for cars might make sense. To do that, coal is mixed with oxygen and steam at high temperatures and pressure to produce a gas. This gas is then reacted in the presence of a catalyst to produce a synthetic oil. Already, several industrial conversion plants exist, and the U.S. Air Force, for one, has used the resulting fuel to fly planes.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Use your marijuana. It'll be badass in your car.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck, D-Mac? I thought you were bullshitting.
No.
Well, I heard that before too.
Listen, I never bullshit. I'm 100%. Every time I speak, it's not a joke. I'm not fucking insane.
Well, I know you're
Okay,
not insane.
but why would you get somebody to waste all their marijuana then?
Listen, you don't waste it. You already smoke it. It's the resin, stooge.
Yeah, it's the leftover. Yeah.
Anyway, well, I'm gonna. On that note, I'm gonna kill the YouTube show. But thanks to everybody who was on the panel tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the show, Brandon. It was a great show.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was fun. If anybody didn't get a chance to say something or didn't talk a lot during the show, and they want to say something, we got a couple minutes, so feel free. No?
Well, I'd like to say something.
Right. No, can I just say one quick thing?
Sure.
Level is horizontal. Horizontal is a straight line. Thank you
Not
very
according
much.
to surveyors.
Scrat is flat. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say back to the discussion of I think it was Brian. He expects proof of something before he believes in it. Well, I don't know how many people heard on here early, like this morning, but what's his name? NASA Shill. He was on here and he kept making all these claims, like the moon is solid and everything. We went to it and light comes in pearl. And all I did was ask him for evidence that this is true, because he's making these claims. And all I asked was for evidence that it was true. And he'd lose it and say, I'm stupid because this has already been proven. I said, okay, if it's been proven, show me the proof. And that's
His name is Shill.
Huh?
So I don't know why you're even talking to him. If his name is Shill, why would you even expect an honest answer out of him?
Yeah, his name is Paid Nassel Show, and he is a notorious bullshitter. No offense, PNS.
Well,
just on Scrat's point. Go on, Scrat, sorry.
Well, I was just saying.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I cut down on you. Go on, you go.
Well, all I was saying was basically my point was there's nothing wrong with expecting proof of something. If somebody makes a claim that it's fact, that it's true, there is absolutely nothing wrong with expecting proof of that before you believe in it, and before you accept what they say. I'm done.
Agreed.
Exactly. I agree with that. See, you have to ask yourself this, right? Now, someone like Paid Nassel Shill will make claim after claim after claim, and he'll make those claims to anyone. And he can make if someone believes him, then that means that he must have proven all these things, and all these things are true. But I don't what's the point? Like, if I'm going to tell someone something and claim it to be true, I have to be able to show them and prove it. So what is the point in making claims to someone that you can't back up and having to call them stupid when you can't back up your claims? Because that's what Paid Nassel Shill will do.
Why make claims you can't back up? State it's speculation. Then that's fine. We're just speculating. It could be, maybe is, maybe isn't. You know, it could be right, could be wrong. But if you're going to make a positive claim, you have to be able to back it up. So if I'm going to claim to someone that something exists, I have to be able to back it up. If they say to me, prove it, I have to be able to prove it. Because you don't want to be stuck in a position where you can't prove their claim. But if I make 10 or 11 claims within the space of 3 minutes, then which one does someone pick to get me to back up? And that's what the likes of Payne Nassar Shill will do. He'll make 10 or 11 claims and fall back on basically bamboozling someone. And someone will just go, this person must be very smart. They must know what they're talking about. And I better not, you know, kind of intimidate someone so they don't ask them for proof. But when you ask them, okay, prove it, what's the proof of that? How was any of that validated?
Brian, what exactly would be proof though? How are we going to prove?
Evidence would be proof, you know.
Video or a citation?
Evidence. I mean, how would you back up?
So
how would
like,
you validate that the
so
moon
like a
is
video?
solid? How would you validate the moon is solid?
How would he do that?
You can't validate that. So you can't make
So
that
why
claim.
ask for it? So why ask for it?
If I'm asking someone.
Well, I think we've turned from final thoughts to something else, so we'll leave them to it. Thanks, guys, for watching the show tonight. Hope you enjoyed. Shout out to Godzilla37, WTP, and PJ Cruikshank for supporting the show with super chats. Always welcome. And shout out to the channel members. Thank you very much. It was fun tonight. Good conversation. And I'll be back tomorrow night. And I don't know what we'll talk about. We'll see. Maybe we'll take requests from chat and see where we go. Anyway, we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good one. Oh, if you want to watch any of this guy's stuff, his name is Galen Windsor, Galen space Winsor. There's not very much information available about him personally on the internet. You might come across something that says he died of leukemia. That is not the case. His death was not linked to any of his work with radioactive materials. That's a hoax. So, interesting stuff. Don't know if this is legit, but it seems legit. And he says some interesting stuff, so worth checking out at least. All right. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Have a good night.